Anime is a vast and varied medium, and if you're not already familiar, it can be daunting to find something you might be interested in watching. This is a podcast where three average anime enjoyers introduce their uninitiated co-host to their favorite anime touchstones, so he can join them deep in the Weebs. This week we watched Carole and Tuesday. Carole and Tuesday is a 24-episode anime television series directed by Shinichiro Watanabe, the director of Cowboy Bebop, among other things, but that's most notably what he's known for. It was animated by Studio Bones, the studio which did Full Metal Alchemist, among other notable titles that we haven't covered yet. The show was created as a commemoration of the studio's 20th anniversary and the 10th anniversary of record label Flying Dog. The English dub premiered worldwide on Netflix on August 30th, 2019. In the future, on a partially terraformed Mars, Tuesday Simmons runs away from her affluent lifestyle as the wealthy daughter of a politician and makes her way to Alba City to pursue her dream of being a musician with just a suitcase and her Gibson acoustic guitar. On her first day in the city, she crosses paths with Carole Stanley, an orphaned refugee from Earth and another aspiring musician who plays the piano. The two decide to team up as a singer-songwriter duo under the name Carole and Tuesday. We watched episodes 1, 2, 3, and 18.
And this is... I did this. Who did this? I did this.
You did this. And I do have one question about your selection, but I'll actually save
Go
it.
on.
No, I'll save it because it's only for one episode, and it's our last episode, so I'll save my question for then.
Okay. I think I know what it is.
Yeah, you probably know what it is.
I shall explain later, just in case I'm wrong. So why did I do this? Well, I did this because I didn't initially watch this when it first came out. Music anime are mostly a miss with me, just because typically they're full of the same kind of tropes, setup, breakdown. Not my jam. However, I remember specifically seeing two reviews of the 2019 season that this came out in. Specifically, I'll name drop Giguk and Mother's Basement, and both had such glowing reviews about this show. Yes, it does have some cliches. I think they're handled personally pretty well. But then they kind of both just dropped in the line. By the way, this is by Shinichiro Watanabe, and also a soft sequel to an anime we've watched before. Bob, do you remember that underknown title called Cowboy Bebop?
Sounds familiar.
This is a year after its last episode.
Okay.
That's essentially when this takes place. And this show... Go on.
In the first episode, we get to see Tuesday writing in her journal, and I marked down that specifically it is April 11th of the year 0049, I believe.
Correct. This show kind of does a lot of soft world, like kind of solidifying of the world building and time frame that people have been living on Mars. Now, it's entirely possible, kind of like in one of the Gundam series, that maybe we finally switched over to a new calendar in the universe 49 years ago. But either way, it's like, okay, so we get an idea that like there are some little world building drops that are really nice that weren't necessary in Bebop, but would have been kind of interesting to have. And it really just serves to make the show better when you catch them. But
I don't really know if it needed it, because like the show takes place in New Brooklyn, and they literally drop, like, they're using Instagram for stuff, and like the way that they show virality is very like modern day understanding with cell phones and all of that. So like I have not seen anything that is a reason for it to be in the future, I guess, except maybe because they get into like political intrigue by setting it on Mars in the future. They can be like, oh, it's using these factions that aren't directly identifiable as current day.
I can actually
entities.
address the Instagram thing specifically. Because one of the
Facebook
things
won the
this
social
show,
media wars. Yeah.
I mean, sure, in universe we could take that, but there's actually a real world reason for it.
Uh-huh.
Had this show for American audiences and most Western audiences not been locked behind Netflix jail, this would have come out episode to episode. And with each episode, their actual in full English Instagram page would upload certain scenes from the show. Not obviously, you can't necessarily nail down as they happened, but as they were relevant and in order they appeared in the episode. Like when we see in episode 2 or episode 1 or 2, where we get Carole waking up before Tuesday. Yeah, it had to be episode 2, and placing the little Gibson guitar picks on her eyes.
Yeah.
For example,
Yeah.
that was things happening in real time to drive engagement. And again, most shows don't typically do that for anime. So it was kind of a cool thing, niche thing that happened. But that's specifically why Instagram exists in this sense here. Why it had to survive the social media wars and the collapse of Earth.
They were trying to make it like a ARG. That's actually cute.
Sure.
That's like the
yeah.
That feels like the all good memes die as soon as brands jump on board, and it's like God, was it last year when everybody was excited because somebody was publishing like parts of Dracula sort of in real time as the letters would have been sent or whatever it was?
Yeah, I remember that. Yes.
That's always a fun thing to do.
Yeah, and so it had a lot of like little cool real world kind of tie-ins there that may not make logical sense in certain circumstances. But if there's a real world explanation, so it's kind of like a hand wavium moment. They don't linger terribly long on it. The other reason, though, I'm gonna circle back to why I ended up watching this, other than the like soft tie-in to the Cowboy Bebop expanded universe, is we did a little pre-gaming here today for the audience at home, and there are 2 scenes in 2 back-to-back episodes where we get performances by characters other than our main characters on essentially what is Mars America's Got Talent, or Mars Idol, in the show called Mars Brightest, that were just so ridiculously unique that I had to let my inner absurdist just dive in on this. Specifically, what was it? The Mermaid Sisters and OG Bulldog's performance. Just go look them up on YouTube. You'll have a good time, probably.
This one had been on my list. Like, I wanted to check it out and then just never got around to it. But yeah, because of the names attached, I was like, oh, I should check that out because it'll probably be good.
Yeah, it's funny. When we picked this show on the last episode, I kind of confused myself because I was like, oh, this is that show that's tied to Bebop. And then I was like, no, it's a different show that's tied to Bebop. Because I was thinking of Kids on the Slope, also directed by Watanabe in collaboration with Yoko Kanno on the soundtrack. So I could not have been wrong. They are both a Bebop show. The thing that I did not know, which I am excited about, is I did not know that Watanabe and Yoko Kanno also collabed on Macross Plus, which is maybe one of my favorite. It's an OVA and is probably my favorite part of the whole Macross IP, I guess.
Yeah, that was his directorial debut.
Yeah, and it's good as hell. Yeah, we should watch that for fun at some point.
But yeah, so with all these factors, I dived in essentially, and I don't remember which video came out first between Giguk and Mother's Basement, but that was the first one to kind of get me to look at the first episode, and the other one kind of reinforced continued viewing. Not that I was having a hard time with it, but I was just kind of added to the engagement, in a sense, the hype, as it were. And I felt the show, for the praise I heard it get, lived up to it. I don't feel that the hype was absurdly out there. I don't think anyone was saying like, oh, it's the next Bebop. but I would say it was arguably as good, but in different ways. And I felt it deserved to be on display in our list.
I don't think it became its own genre unto itself, but yeah, hey,
Right.
here's something interesting. I didn't have any major problems with this show. Okay, yeah, let's get right into episode 1, shall we?
All right. It's been a minute since I've kind of ran with the show. So here we go. We start off with our first episode, hearing about this 7-minute miracle. And get used to seeing that at the intro because boy is it repeated. We're introduced kind of about two girls who kind of help out Mars. And at this point I'm like, oh great, here we go. We're going to be watching some fantasy thing set in space because that's what anime does. That's all I know about anime is most things are in space. A lot of stuff is your imagination, whether fantasy or sci-fi. Outside of anything with robots, I suppose that tends to be military driven. But then we get to see this girl, this normal human girl, sneaking off out of her house and going to what she considers the city. To get there, she is taking her suitcase. She's taking her Gibson guitar. We know it's a Gibson guitar because it says it. Shout out to Kalamazoo. And it's an interesting trip because she's pushing, she's dragging, and eventually starts riding this suitcase.
Like a
which
horse.
is at that point I realized that this isn't Victorian era. This isn't arguably current era. It's somewhat in the future because it's got that whole electronic sidekick picture. The
So,
suitcase
Bob,
would talk to you.
quick interruption, I'm sorry. You said she looked normal, but then you described Victorian. Would you not say she maybe is rich?
I didn't get rich until we, spoiler alert, find out later on that she is. I didn't realize that she came from a well-to-do family till much later on.
I mean, that was a pretty big house she was leaving.
Yeah.
Well, I get that, but I wasn't sure if that's just like status quo for people around.
Okay,
Maybe she was the helped child.
Okay,
don't really have any establishment on Tuesday.
I just
other than she has.
I like the idea that like she was trying to climb out through a window while wearing like her full normal going out dress, and then kind of gave up on it. Was like, I'll take the door.
Way too often.
Yeah, but it's just like
here I'm gonna get this out of the way now. One of like maybe two complaints, and I won't even say complaints, critiques I really have that stand out above all else for me. The constant repeating of the 7-minute miracle at the beginning. Like, sure, the first couple episodes, I get it. It doesn't need to be their whole series. And the fact that
I think that's just a washing back-to-back thing that hits a little harder
than it would be week to week.
And I agree. And I guess this is why I'm complaining, because the complaint is definitely more at Netflix than anything. Because, Netflix, you really bungled this one, just hands down, in handling its release. Take that. We're never getting sponsored by Netflix. The other is that, Carole really doesn't get a lot of wardrobe changes compared to, or excuse me, Tuesday doesn't get a lot of wardrobe changes compared to Carole. And that kind of irked me, especially considering girl come from money.
I'm going to comment on that later on, actually.
Go for it. When you're ready.
Yeah.
We're going to do a quick sneak in on Netflix here. I watch things with subtitles, but I also watch this dubbed. So I watch this dubbed with English subtitles.
Oh.
And most shows are fairly close.
Yeah.
This show was not any stretch.
Rough.
Like to hear the speaking was absolutely fine, and then it's like Netflix tried to shorten it down and then include stuff that wasn't there. For example, in this episode, she talks about how she was searching for something, and Netflix is like, "Oh, I Googled it." They're looking for extra money? I don't understand.
Well, in Japanese, if that's the translation of what they say.
Yeah, it's the one-to-one with the cultural difference.
The subtitles are the Japanese lines translated.
Yeah,
there was not a lot of correlation here.
Yeah.
It's there, but it's not necessarily in the order you would be used to as the lines are delivered. Believe me, I did take note of that, and I would say
I would advise people to actually, if you're going to watch this dubbed, do not put on subtitles because it turns distracting.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I would say that's a fair statement. For me, I kind of just write it off as, nature of the beast. I think I'm going to be liberal and assume here that Joe might be on the same page as me as understanding where that comes from, and Nick as well.
I understand where it comes from, but yeah, it's hard to focus both when you're hearing something different than you're reading.
Oh, agreed. And I will say this too. I did not check. I think though that's the only English subtitle on there. There might, if there's a second one, then if you do watch with subs, make sure you give it a second. If it doesn't line up, choose the other. But yeah, I get where you're coming from, Bob. And I thought of you when I saw that.
So, Tuesday gets to the train station and she's going to Alba City. Because why not name a city Alba?
Alba means white in Latin.
Oh. Thank you.
I specifically put in my notes Jessica Alba City.
Well,
here's the thing. Here's the thing, though. The reason I did that, we've seen in Bebop, and I admit I've heard good things about Kids on the Slope. I've never stopped to watch it. I might remediate that one day. That being said, Shinichiro Watanabe loves him some Western media references, both music and film. So part of me wonders if that was actually kind of a subtle thing. I could not find anything to support that, but that's kind of my own little headcanon.
Oh, also, Alba is the plural of album, which is
there it is.
Really?
More relevant. Yeah.
Wow.
That's what it is, hands down.
I've learned something today. Thank you.
Same. And I'm Joe. Thank you, being the little gremlin that you are. Research. I'm like, there's a connection, and I'm not getting it. Thank you.
I feel like if you went into a record store and just put your hand on your hip and said, "Wow, look
I
at
want
all the
several
Alba
Alba."
in here," I think you get the crap kicked out of you.
Depends on the record store. They might actually just make you a member.
Depends on the record store. You're right.
So apparently Tuesday only got the certain ticket because she is rushing to get on this train, even though in reality, I'm sure there's more than one train every year. He jumps into the train car and ends up being filled with goats. Looking at it now, it's like har har har, but it's kind of cute because still me not realizing that she's rich. It's like, oh, this poor girl, she's just trying to run away because she wants to seeing the guitar do something with music. This anime does something that we don't normally get. It reveals the age of our protagonist. Because she mentions that she's 17. Which is the same time that her hero, Cyndi Lauper, ran away from home with a notebook, with a goat eating her notebook. But she's on her way to her city of several albums.
Hey, Joe?
Yeah.
What is Grapefruit Juice, the book?
Oh, I should have looked that up. I was gonna.
I'm shocked you didn't. Wow.
I was gonna, but then I didn't.
I choose to believe the goat is named Grapefruit Juice.
No, it's a book.
Well, yeah, because
no. I mean, in universe, the goat is also named Grapefruit Juice.
It's a collection of poems and short stories.
Yeah, that is what someone who grows up to be someone
Cyndi
who
Lauper?
makes Cyndi Lauper's kind of music. No,
that is a Cyndi Lauper thing to do.
What songs did Cyndi Lauper do?
Girls Just Want to Have Fun?
Yeah, and also
True Colors.
True Colors.
Okay. Okay, I do know Girls Just Want to Have Fun. I do know that one. I'd like that song.
See, I love rock and roll.
Points at title of episode.
Fair enough.
I feel like
for the audience, all of the episode titles are names of songs.
I feel like Cyndi Lauper's kind of an odd choice. If this is based in the future, it's actually kind of cool, arguably, that she chose Cyndi Lauper of all female singers to kind of go with.
Retro.
Yeah. Because for us, she's an older singer, but for her, that would be like us picking Beethoven as our person to cheer for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there is something about like the point in time that we're at for the last, handful of decades, almost the last century, I guess. Wow, that's weird that sounds right. But just like a point of the collection and sort of spread of information and histories and records and stuff like that. I think there is I think for someone in the future from now, they probably more easily find info on Cyndi Lauper's life than we could on Beethoven's, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
To point to, not to skip ahead too far in this episode, it is discussed kind of how she came across Cyndi Lauper.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
So yeah, it makes sense that she would choose Cyndi Lauper since, this is classical music, and rich white families like to listen to their classical musics.
Oh my god, yeah. Wait, so then what's
Tell me
Beethoven?
I'm wrong.
Is Beethoven double classical?
He would be ancient.
Oh.
It's called classical because it's from the classical era. It's a specific period of time. It doesn't.
Okay.
Things don't become
neoclassical.
Classical.
It's gonna be 90s on 9 on future satellite radio.
Yeah, like
millennial. Oh my god, would it be millennial?
It's still the oldies.
Would they rename the genre going forward?
The genre, no, but the chunk of time probably would get a name.
Well, yeah, I think that's the thing. Like, I'm bad at like music, like culture and history and stuff, but like, yeah, I think there's something that makes sense. Like, there's a lot of stuff that we think of when we think of as like quote unquote classical, but I bet that is like we are referring to music of an era. If for people who are deeper into that era of music, there are probably subgenres. Because classical
pop
is not a genre. Yeah, like, yeah.
What is the name of the lead singer of the Temptations?
Beelzebub. Nope. I don't know.
That is demonstrably
but
untrue.
she tends to be, I think it's Gloria something. And
Estefan.
Not Gloria Estefan. But there's plenty of people who would be, in theory, time differential for us to that point in time.
Sure.
So for her to just pull Cyndi Lauper because...
Are you thinking of Gladys Knight and the Pips?
Possibly.
We are also not good at music.
Going to get Christopher Nolan directed movie as well? It's a reboot.
I'd watch it.
It's The Gladys Knight. Yeah, I'd check that.
Boo!
Okay, what happens next?
Anyway, she's pulling up into Alba City. She gets on top of her little farm car and sees it pulling up, and I just feel like it has such a strong Emerald City vibe.
It looks like the city from Agents of Mayhem. I feel bad for pointing that out to this show because that game was not well received, but I can't unsee it.
It is a very pretty future city.
And as a reminder, we're on Mars.
Yes. Regardless of how it looks.
Yeah. But yeah, there's like a lot of water and some greenery around, tall buildings.
Just looks super pretty. Super modern.
Ultra modern.
Almost postmodern.
Or they have jukeboxes. Anyway.
I don't know anything about art movements either.
Okay, postmodern is
after modern.
One of my few pride points is when I was at art summer camp back in school. I did a whole project that was just like, and here's my message of it. And when I was finished, the advisor just looked at me and goes like, "Oh, that's cute. You reverse engineered postmodernism." And I was just like, couldn't have told me that a week ago when I was working on it.
Was not be post-Terran?
Are people still on? Something happened back on Earth, didn't it?
Yeah, there was that whole gate collapse.
Yeah, so in Cowboy Bebop.
Oh no, it happened already, I think.
Yeah, Cowboy Bebop takes place in 2071, which is about 50 years after an accident with the hyperspace gateway, which made Earth almost uninhabitable. So everybody moved to the other planets and moons.
Okay.
You think we'll be alive for that?
Gate crash?
2071.
Yeah.
Well, we already haven't found the Mass Effect relay, so I'm disappointed.
There's still time.
I thought that was supposed to happen in like last year or something.
I don't know. According to Destiny, we should have already found a big white orb over Mars.
Who says we haven't? They're just covering it up, man.
Well, considering America and China haven't worked together with Russia to go to Mars, I don't think it's happening.
You think they would work together? How quaint.
According to Destiny, did it, but that's a sidetrack I shouldn't have got us on.
Okay, at this point, we still haven't met the Vulcans, and we will move on. We're actually introduced at this point to Carole, who has the coolest, and I am upset that they haven't invented it yet, alarm clock / electronic device / best friend owl.
Yeah.
It's an
Never
AI.
gets a name.
Yes, it does.
It does.
What is it?
She introduces him. Ziggy.
Forget. Ziggy, thank you. He's running late to work. She gets on her ultra cool one-wheeled skateboard, which exists in real life. Maybe not as cool electronic as that is, but they are out there and make the old man and me get upset irrationally. She's heading to work, and you can tell that she is kind of on the street kid.
Hard knocks.
Yes, she's not had the blessed life. King of not the blessed life, Tuesday finally arrives in Alba City, and she's just looking confused. We go back to Carole, who is working as food service representative, and living her best food service representative life with people complaining about everything. And
yeah,
I
like how all the restaurants, like, they have everything's like digital, like the menus and stuff. It's all just order from the thing. But then there's a button that you can hit to summon a person.
Okay, but when they did that, I thought it. So, all right, in some visual novel games, you can it'll be like, hey, here's your main menu, and there's a cute girl on the menu who's presenting the options to you, and they give you the option to click on the girl to make her laugh or gasp or whatever to react to your touch, because gamers are gross. I thought they were just suggesting that in the future menus also have this little when menus used to say and the smiles are free. It was just the digital version of that. Yeah, if you click on our cute little menu,
Are you saying
person,
you thought in the future menus had VTubers?
A little bit. Why not? You think they wouldn't?
Also, I learned a lot about Nick today in one short sentence.
Yeah, no, I use no punctuation. The whole thing was a long sentence.
No, I mean, I don't think they wouldn't, but, considering what we'll learn about this world going forward, at least humans can still have a job.
That's true.
For now.
You're not wrong. Honestly,
all this robot AI stuff, weirdly relevant watching it now.
Yeah, retrospectively rewatching this, I've got to add this in. This show called its shots early.
Yeah, not that there wasn't AI and robot stuff going on in 2019, but even since this show came out, it has developed in such a way that now it's on people's minds a little more. And so watching this was interesting.
There are other elements we'll discuss towards the end after our last episode. Because, spoiler, there will be a content warning and I will explain why. But this show called a lot of shots in the moment and predicted, short term predicted the future long term.
Do we want to say that when did this show come out?
2019.
Okay. Did it really boy, I already don't remember 2019, but
I do.
It's like I was saying earlier, there's a lot of things about this show which are so still approaches things the way that we would approach them in the modern day. It's oh yeah, everybody's got cell phones and here's Instagram and whatever, that I don't know how much it
yeah, it's not really predicting so much as just one, he's a sci-fi dude. This is the topics he thinks about, and this sort of thing is a common concept in a lot of sci-fi
And yeah, probably pulling on like current technology to base this on, sort of thing.
He seems to have made the logical intuition or logical jump up via intuition of how this would eventually play out. He didn't necessarily maybe get the dates right, but I mean,
well, it's just like
it's pretty good.
It's sci-fi. That's what it happens.
Yeah, and that makes sense. Yeah.
Who's the classic sci-fi writer where everybody was like, "Oh, he predicted all that"? Was that
Clark?
Several.
Jules Verne?
Wells and Jules Verne? I'm probably thinking of
Asimov.
Yeah,
definitely.
Asimov.
But like
I mean, you gotta.
I think maybe there's something about science fiction writers, like they seem to have a people who like to think about predictions and stuff probably say that they have a higher hit percentage than other styles of writers. And I wonder how much of that is just like being huge nerds, that they are aware of like developments that are still on the fringe. So when they just present those, it's that you know, those ideas and technologies hitting the mainstream is still so far out that it's just like, oh, he was saying this years ago. It's like, not because he predicted it, but he just like was already aware of it by then because he's a freaking nerd.
And also like knows about technology a little more than the average person. But then also I find sci-fi writers like just really understand like social stuff a lot and cultural like movement. And so, like, yeah, taking a thing and like extrapolating it further down the line, like you end up with stuff that seems predictive or at least like echoes things.
And we're not going to talk about Orson Scott Card.
I've never been to France. I don't know what you're talking about.
France is destroyed in the future. Anyway, what happens next?
Anyway, we got an interplay between Tuesday and Carole. Tuesday getting off the train. Carole making the burgers that do not look appetizing by any stretch to the servers.
What? Wait a second. Let's go back a second, because the customers that she deals with amused me. Because it's one of those, like, people are always going to be people things.
I've worked food service. I know those people.
I was going to say, like, if you've ever worked any sort of, like, retail or food service, you know these people. Because there's the guy who calls her over and says...
this bitter coffee.
Yeah, my coffee is bitter. And she's like, yeah, it's coffee. This is, like, it's the default coffee. This is how we make coffee. It tastes
And then there's the sexist pig.
And then there's the guy who orders his food and then adds on the end also you. I'm ordering a burger and I'm ordering you because apparently he thinks this is a maid cafe. Which amused me. I don't know.
Very like
the face she made.
Her response amused me.
Yeah, her face was real good on that one.
A 70s era creepy guy. And then she makes them revenge burgers.
Oh yeah, no,
that's my only guess. Her smile when the goes on.
Cultural note on the second creepy guy is like I'm pretty sure that's more less of a general sex pest and more of just like because in Japan there's these things called maid cafes or like other variations on it where the servers like will sit down and be companions as well as serving you food.
Sure, but this
is and then there's ones that also do that and take it a little further. And I forgot where I was going with that sentence.
Cabarets. I think there's I don't think it's that, just because like so much about this city is like Western City coded. Like it's called New Brooklyn. Like they're definitely aiming for like a New York City kind of thing. And so like I like between this and Bebop and just the other thing that the directors worked on, I feel like they're better at being kind of worldly and not just assuming, oh, well, this, you know, I'm writing this thing in Italy, but it must work the same way that I know that these things would work. Like, I think that is a guy being a sex pest, because, like, just the fact that they're in a burger joint.
Yeah, and there's nothing about her attire that would suggest, oh, he could mistake her for a maid cafe, and nothing about the look of that guy.
I don't think he's mistaking it for it.
Well, I also I don't buy it because nothing about him screams, this is a guy that went to a maid cafe. I'm going to be honest. Everything about this has a lot of Western sensibility in its visual design and its layout. I just can't stretch the imagination to believe this is a maid cafe kind of thing.
Sure. I don't think it is. I don't think he
thought it was. I thought he was trying to make it one. But I brought up those two guys because I'm very curious as to if anyone else could figure out what she was putting on the burgers.
I think it's like a fake cheese. I know it's their specialty burger though.
Yeah, what is it called?
So,
what did they order?
I forgot the name of the burger.
A jump set?
yeah. So here's my thought. One of two things. Either A, it is some kind of, I will use the word wasabi, but any kind of like super hot cheese or sauce.
Maybe. Yeah, like at first I thought it was just like grease that she was
my
putting
second
on
thought.
it.
Like I choose to really believe that.
It came out of one of those like mustard squirt bottles.
Yep. Well, who knows in the future? Maybe we have, usable, ready-serve plastic guns that can shoot hot fryer grease. Because, this is where my past food service experience kind of peaks out. As far as I'm concerned, they had it coming.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, definitely.
So, and that's when I'm like, that's my girl. Get him.
Yeah, when I saw that it was coming out of a bottle, I was just like, oh, I'm surprised she didn't put anything on it. But then watching the way they reacted, it's like, oh, she did, and I just didn't. So we are going to see this in a later episode. I think episode 3, I guess. But and this actually also comes from the world building done in Bebop. But they are on Mars and terraforming and traditional styles of growing and farming are a rarity at this point. So the fact that everything is going to be sort of super artificial and off color and things like that, and especially fast food and the most economic sort of establishments, it's just everything is going to be a little bit off. So it didn't strike me, nothing that she was putting on it struck me as strange.
Makes sense. So we switch over to Tuesday. She's doing her best, girl in the city. I was waiting for her to throw her hat in the air and try to catch it. And her suitcase gets stolen, which is kind of sad because that was a pretty cool suitcase.
Just
at least she was holding onto her guitar. Poor girl can't catch a break, but such is life.
She comes from a rich family. What if she deserves it? Okay. How come? Okay. No, you know what? We'll come back to this. I'm not sure how to approach this stupid thought yet.
All right. Then we'll talk about Angela. Who, with the episodes that we watched, I do not like her. And I don't understand her point currently. She is the child star who wants to break out of being a child star. We're introduced to her doing a commercial for a drink, and after the commercial, she fires her agent because how dare she have to do a second commercial?
Durian soda is the
durian. Means they grow durians on Mars.
I guess,
or at least they get the taste.
Yeah, I know I complained last time on Bakano about oh, these just seem like parallel stories, but I think Angela does I think her point in the show, and I'm sure this will sort of wrap up more directly, as the show gets towards the end, but I do think she is basically, her storyline is being a foil for our lead girls because, Tuesday is a runaway, Carole is living on her own, they're both downtrodden and whatever, whereas what's her name again? Not Angela. Angela, clearly comes from money, has her mom pushing her, she's a child star, she's already working professionally, she's already kind of a diva, and also, as things go on, Angela is working with this big industry guy and they're pushing the boundaries of technology and really treating it as a business, where when we eventually meet C&T's manager and we learn what kind of, person and techniques he uses to market them and make connections, it is a very it's kind of old school versus new school. It's kind of industry versus grassroots, and like it does work well, even if they don't, interconnect much, if at all, in what we saw. It works because they are a good foil for each other, and it is sort of like showing both sides of how the music business can be done in this world.
I won't give away yes, no, maybe so. All I will say is remembering how I was and seeing it now how it's presented. Angela's character arc, I would say, is definitely one worth kind of keeping an eye on.
Oh, sure. Like, to me, she seems like she's going to be the peer that's a rival that kind of, like, learns from them to, like, put some heart into it or whatever, and, like...
Yes, but it's not just that, I guess.
Oh, of course not. But, like, in terms of, like, setting things up, like, that's... I'm like, okay,
yeah,
that's who this is.
Yeah, sure. She's their, Vegeta best buddy. But even then, again, this is with a far broader context without trying to give anything away. It is just a very interesting route for I would say it's a very well done version of that, because not just because it's more, but because what the more is, how it's presented, the journey we go on. But yeah, I would say for all intents and purposes, you kind of got that archetype there.
And I feel like, because I've only watched the 4 episodes, that's what I do for these shows. I feel like she does have more to her than what I have seen. But in the context of what I have seen, this is just the opinion that I have right now. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah.
She's definitely like an unlikable personality.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I get the feeling, even with our episode we watch in the future, that there has been some change.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure, yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about that when we get there.
Oh,
yeah.
We got Carole. Fortunately, and for reasons we'll never figure out, she got fired from her job. Certainly not having anything to do with the weird goop on hamburgers. But she's having a bumming day, and I get the feeling that this happens a lot, even though they don't directly say so.
I think in episode 2, we kind of get a little more confirmation of what you're suspecting. But yeah, we are definitely left with the impression like this happens on a non-zero amount of times.
So she's real sad. She sets up her keyboard, which she carries around with her, so future music instruments. Starts just playing a melody. Tuesday, who is now just Guitar Girl, hears some music, and she's really moved by it. And it's kind of a cute moment that's interrupted by a police officer telling them that they can't play music on the bridge. Okay.
Yeah.
So they run off and become best friends because they ran away from a cop.
Carole does the right thing and offers shelter.
We'll get to that. So, we're going to switch over to Angela for a second because we meet Angela's mother, who is quite possibly the scariest person in the entire series. I know that I am assuming after watching, what is this now, 21st anime, that this is just kind of the trope. The overbearing mother tends to be larger than life.
Oh, yeah.
This show got mommy issues, y'all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And starts
Bob,
kind of
a very interesting read on her.
It's just almost, I wouldn't say threatened, but tells Angela that this is how it's going to be, because otherwise she's not going to have a career. Her mom had a life as a teen or as a child actress, as I recall. Then she was forgotten, and she didn't want that to happen to her daughter. And I don't know. It's my Western culture has taken over, so I feel like she's being a bad mother who just wants the popularity for herself and not her daughter.
I mean, I don't... This is kind of one of those, I see it, and all those, especially growing up like through the 90s and early 2000s, where you'd hear stories about the child beauty pageant stars. I get the vibe off her. It's essentially the same kind of energy. Well, I did this and well, it didn't work out for me. You can do this and you'll be successful and I will live vicariously through you.
That doesn't make her likable.
Yeah, I'm not saying she should be. I will also say she's not necessarily a totally bad character, but for what we have here, yeah, she's a force, and she thinks she's a force, and yeah, she's not winning any Parent of the Year awards, regardless.
We'll leave Angela and her mom aside for a little bit because we got to meet Tuesday's mom finally.
Mm-hmm.
Is that her brother?
Yes.
Okay.
That is Spencer, yes.
Because I believe in future episodes we find out that she doesn't have a dad living currently.
Yeah.
So, yes, it's more proof that, yes, she does come from a rich family. Don't know how rich till later on, but right now...
yeah, I mean, the woman
like,
arrives via helicopter, which lands on their lawn.
I'm still standing by. It didn't take until the whole bit later on where I was like, oh, okay.
Bless.
But Spencer seems concerned about his sister. And his mom seems like, I don't know why she ran away. She has everything she wants. Makes Angela's mom seem positively huggable.
There's a lot of moms not... I won't say a lot but there are definitely 2 moms not winning Mother of the Year awards in this show.
I think these are the only 2 moms we meet in the 4 episodes.
To be fair, I think these are the only 2 moms in the series that we
meet. Angela and her mom are meeting up with Mr. Tao, who happens to be a singing producer, kind of, but he's way more into AI. This is where the show starts, as we discussed previously, predicting the future in a way that we can recognize today.
He's got a company an entertainment company that's all AI, and he has crunched all of the data about old music and stuff and come up with the algorithms to make perfect songs. Music. Yeah.
And he is a creeper, and I do not like him.
There's again, obviously,
he does not know how to human.
Does not at all. He was proud to be called AI at some point, I believe.
Yeah, she's like, maybe you're an AI. He just looks at her as sideways and is like, yeah, I get that a lot.
Yeah, there's obviously a lot going on with him, but there's an episode again shortly after these 3 that I almost want to choose because you get a chunk of his backstory that explains kind of why he is the way he is, and it is so. I'm just telling you now, you might guess it, but I'm going to say it might not be one of your first couple of guesses.
I will posit he is simply a product of his research. I don't think he started off this way, but I think that his work has worked with him to produce what he is now, if that makes sense.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's leave Tao alone and go back to Carole and Tuesday.
Actually,
go ahead.
I did want to touch on it. And I guess this might be just kind of a thought experiment. Do you think working with an environment of, how much do you say, 120, 121 employees, yep, all AI, do you think that one, and I don't mean him specifically, but a person would essentially go from any other personality type to just over time, however long he's been doing this?
Okay, so
to that?
So for the past 3 years, here's some anecdotal evidence for your scientific thought process.
Sure.
So I was diagnosed autistic when I was 30, which was 2020. And that was the year the pandemic started. And basically since that point, I have been home almost all the time. Haven't had a job, been here all the time, been online most of the time. But that time, apart from the social structure of quote unquote everyday life for everyone else, has let me
kind of explore more about what I'm actually like more in a vacuum. And the personality, well, it's not really a personality change, but like my mannerisms and stuff and my people skills have gone down the toilet, and I can like he's definitely more like an extreme version of it, but like I can see some evidence in my experience that parallels that a bit. I will say that.
And to your point, considering you're saying, yeah, you still interact online, so there's still a moderate degree of human actual interaction. Essentially, though, arguably he's cut out or chosen, or by nature of his
created
job,
his own bubble. Yeah,
he's created his own vacuum, and I would say quite the vacuum by the look of it.
There's definitely control issues at play with this character as well, because like that's kind of what you do. So I'm a little curious about what this show's like concept of AI is, because it gets thrown around a lot in ways that like with current real world sense of AI is just like, oh, do they mean, sometimes they mean algorithms, sometimes they mean like human language assistants. It's not totally clear to me from what we watched, but when you have a character like this, when they go over whatever kind of AI he's using, I am sure it is the kind where he has the, control freak. That's not the right word, but he has the control issues where he's just like, no, if I am not causing it to happen, it's not good. And I think that is a more extreme case.
Mm-hmm.
You want to know who I actually feel like the closest character is?
Sure.
The way Jim Carrey portrays Robotnik.
I haven't seen those films, but I'll take your word on it.
Yeah, no, that's real good, Paul.
Because it's either that or the like child genius nerd from Grandma's Boy, which is also kind of a weird pull, but like the same thing. It's like people who are sort of like either are bad at or choose to skip like general like human social contract niceties, control issues, and also just like prefer their isolation and whatnot. And it's like, there's one way you go where you become like this I hate everyone edgelord, and the other way you go where you just like kind of calmly adapt it and just be like, no, everything's under my control, as long as you leave me alone, we'll be okay with each other. Like, it's
I don't appreciate you calling me out like this.
Yeah, adding humans adds variables that I don't like to deal with, so
I will say, to address your statement on the AI, I have nothing to confirm the level of AI, but based on how they use it, and considering when this came out and where we are now, I would say it's not Evie from Mass Effect. And it's not the computer a la Star Trek, pick your show. But I would say it is definitely a very advanced version of what we have now, not actual intelligence, but the algorithm and the bastard child of the algorithm and what we're dealing with now on some steroids.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I think we're at. And I would say, arguably, considering how I believe wrongly the term AI is currently used, that actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That's my only insight there, because I'll be honest with you, there's no clarity to the degree that AI exists, especially when you throw in the added context of this is post Bebop, and we didn't really see a lot of AI in Bebop.
Every time we did, it was like the whole premise of an episode because it was so unusual. Right. But so the thing that gets me is all of the like AI pets that we see in this world, which
that's what I was gonna bring up.
It's somewhere between like, are they, glorified Tamagotchi? Are they like,
they seem like Furbies.
Yeah, Furbies, the Aibo toy dog.
Here's where I would say, again, where my analogy comes from. I think this is the algorithm and pre-programmed responses and mannerisms, because in one episode they actually kind of address just kind of like if you're listening, you blink and you miss it kind of moment. They address like, yeah, you got to really pay attention to your AI pets, otherwise they kind of get a little.
Was it when
depressive.
that guy punted the Pinocchio?
Maybe that was it. I forget exactly when it was, because spoiler, I watched the whole season again just to pick an episode.
Furbies are like that too. If you leave them alone in the dark,
so yeah, there you go. It's the bastard child I mentioned earlier, plus now a Furby.
Do they?
Which is just a nightmare.
Do they get depressed, or do they go? What is it in Halo? Not
rampant.
Maleficent. Yeah, do they go rampant?
Listen, it's probably, a simulacrum of depression, but honestly, it would.
Oh yeah, it's probably just
change.
Like their stuff like breaks down when you're not interacting with it, kind of thing.
But listen, imagine how the show would have changed if you neglected Bunny AI and all of a sudden it's got a knife.
I'd be into that.
I would say I might actually watch that show. Bebop, Watanabe, give me another show, but make AI, do the thing.
This is just sort of making me want to revisit Angelic Layer / Chobits.
Hey, guess what? Angelic Layer was also done by Studio Bones.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
I believe that the next part is meeting Carole and Tuesday, going to Carole's house.
Mm-hmm.
House in quotations because she lives in an apartment, which she explains happened to be the storage place of the owner.
It's dope though. It's like a loft thing above.
That is my dream loft. I remember the first time I saw it, I'm like, this is everything I want in a home right here.
And I don't recall seeing where Carole sleeps.
On the couch.
Well, there is a bed upstairs.
Carole would sleep on the bed because Tuesday was.
Oh yeah, that's
right.
I keep mixing them up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, also there are times in the series, and I don't remember if it's in these episodes or not, that Tuesday and Carole both sleep on the couch on different sections because it's an L shape.
Yep.
That's where it's like, is it a
Carole
one-room
does have a bed
upstairs?
Yeah, it's got like really a little mini
very
loft.
awesome place.
Yeah.
And if there was one thing in the whole 4 episodes that we watched that I do not like, it's how Carole just instantly invites Tuesday to live with her because they ran away from the police together.
I can kind of buy it because
I
again,
can too.
When we get Carole's backstory, because this is the point where we get the tragic backstories.
I am going to use something I was going to say for later.
Okay.
I'm going to say it and be done with it.
Do it.
Let's get it out there into the universe.
Fight.
I get such a strong Two Broke Girls vibe from this show.
Oh!
I don't like the show you are referencing. I kind of get where you're coming from.
It's the same premise.
More or less.
And
it's just this is good.
I'll save my post-analysis for that, but there's a lot of similarities. So it's, for me, it is touching that close to surrealism. It's got its toe there. I can accept it.
I get it. Like I said, I get where you're coming from because I feel like I've seen this kind of set up in a few places in the past, so I can't put my finger on it. I have not watched Two Broke Girls because I like good television. And
I understand the show is not for everyone.
Oh, I'm just teasing you, Bob. I know.
We switch off of Carole and Tuesday for a second to meet this drunk guy at a bar, which has cool electronic interface just like they had at the Carole's original job,
burger place.
Yeah.
I love that. That's the universal standard, apparently.
It took the second time with the summoning the waiter button. I kept expecting a hologram to appear, i.e., Back to the Future.
Well, to be fair, there is an automated bartender there at first, and then he summoned people.
The human.
Yeah, when you have something more complex than pour me this beer.
This just thinking about it now, he is the if we're doing the comparison of Angela to him, he is the old-fashioned guy, so of course he would prefer to have the human interaction as opposed to the AI.
Gus might be one of my previous spirit animals, I think. Gus is a mood.
Gus is something. Mood. But we do switch back to Tuesday and Carole, and they chat about how each of them got into music, and Tuesday explains how she just heard some Cyndi Lauper, and it just really got her into music. And Carole explained that she was at a refugee camp, heard music, and got into music.
What kind of refugee camp, Bob?
Orphan?
Earth refugee camp.
I don't think we know her parents. I think her parents are dead.
Yeah, it's an Earth refugee.
Yeah, they were from Earth though.
Yeah. Yeah, she states outright, I orphan. Was at a refugee camp, and a singer came named Flora, and that's a name we're going to hear a few times. I'm sure nothing else, and that inspired her.
And they talk about the music Carole was playing, and Tuesday was inspired to write lyrics to, and they get together and sing a song that actually I really liked it because it wasn't a musical type of bit, even though it was, because you could tell that they were learning as they were going, or that's the way it was played out.
Yeah.
They're developing.
They just
hatching it out.
Went right into it.
They're jamming and like working through it and feeling
picking
it
up
out.
pieces.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I do too. That's realistic. They have their post scene where Carole and Tuesday go up to the top of the roof, and they're all cool, and they're like, we're going to get followers on our Instagram and take their selfie. And noted, and I think agreed on by most of us, is they are so obviously a perfect couple.
Uh-huh.
I love them. Even if they're just friends, I don't care. I would don't get me wrong. I think like everyone else here is like, yes, forever. But even if the show decided at some point, yeah, they're just friends, I'm still okay with it because they are just the perfect support group for each other either way. And I'm just happy with them regardless.
Yeah, like
I just want them to be happy, but I also want that to include them kissing each other.
I wouldn't be upset if it did.
Just because they happen to be like one of my favorite archetypes.
Yeah.
So
I guess the way I say this, I don't require it, but if it happened, I wouldn't turn my nose away because these are so adorable. They are precious, and they must be protected.
And it would feel natural.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really does. Like they literally bumped into their best partner in life. Use the word as you will. I don't care, but their best partner in life. They're perfect partner, and they're just together, and it works, and it's fine. And I love it.
There's almost.
And I also love it.
Bob, I actually kind of agree with you on the sense that like I do not buy how quickly they hit it off, especially because their first thing they do together is run from the cops. Although, it's a great way to spend a first date. But I feel like there's almost a way where this would have made, like, I can kind of excuse that, like, accelerated start just because they are such a good pairing together. Like, I would almost accept it if the show started and they were already, a pair, a couple like this, but then we spend the first episode in a flashback talking about how they met, so that way we could like hand wave, and some time has passed since then. I'm not saying that would be better because, like I said, I don't think it's a problem. I think it's I'm happy to excuse it in this case. But yeah, they make a good couple, and they do complement each other really well.
To kind of go with that, I'm a 50-50 because here's why. When we get Carole's backstory of I'm a refugee, she comes from an upbringing in a life understanding what it's like to just have to help someone else and open the door. I would say I could understand if Tuesday had been depicted as a little reluctant, but again, this is where I bring out the hand wavium and I say I don't care, because as we've driven home now, yeah, they just belong together. Never should they have not been together.
Well, Tuesday's got that it depends on the kindness of strangers, Well,
yeah, she has been pampered, but I guess with a complete stranger.
She's been pampered, and she just doesn't have like street smarts.
She just doesn't know that like it's a thing. Like, I am totally sure she did not even think about like where she was gonna live, what she was gonna do.
Oh yeah.
For money or anything.
There's a reason
she Googled
her suitcase got stolen immediately.
Which is also why she doesn't have a lot of costume changes, because her clothes got stolen,
True.
and anything she's wearing is from Carole's closet.
Right. And I guess that's part of my hand waving. It's like, yeah, she had everything stolen, so someone just offering her a roof is literally going to be, I don't have the luxury of questions at this point. Let me just do it. And if it turns bad, I'll deal with it as it comes, I guess.
And I would be so torn, but on the same
I
note,
mean, I get it.
They had a shared experience, which I think definitely helps.
Yeah,
because ACAB.
They bonded over the music of their souls, talk to each other.
They have, between them, they have a certain level of, like, naivete and also roll with it enthusiasm that it kind of makes sense that they would just be like, yeah, sure, let's give this a try, like subconsciously or whatever. That it is
also just like when you grow up poor, like all the people I know who grew up poor and with nothing are like the kindest people you will ever meet, because they will all share what they have, even if it's not much.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it does not seem weird to me that she would just be like, yeah, you can crash it.
The other thing I love is the view from their roof.
It's a great view of the city.
It is such a great, like I said, this is everything I ever wanted in a home. Replacing the word apartment, because millennial, never gonna own property. But yeah, I just the design of it, and then that view. Oh, I want to jump in that universe and just live there.
They do kind of just have like a reclaimed Brooklyn Bridge, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you think they just transported the Brooklyn Bridge from Earth?
Well, like
bit by bit.
You know how they make like, coffee tables out of reclaimed wood? Well, they just built a new Brooklyn Bridge out of reclaimed pieces of the old Brooklyn Bridge from the ruins of Earth. Listen, I haven't been back to Earth in this universe, so
to your point, I mean, naval vessels will usually have at least an amount of the previous ship it's named after in their hull. So yeah, that kind of makes sense. There's precedent.
Yeah, right. Wow, yeah, it does kind of make sense. As much as I do love a city skyline, knowing now the thing about Instagram, like there being like a co-marketing ARG kind of thing going on, I feel so much grosser about this scene.
I get it, and I didn't know about it till after the fact, and it's one of those like, yeah, it kind of sucks that it's there for that. But honestly, again, it's like, because it wasn't an ARG, it was just kind of like, follow our journey.
My brain just substituted in social media.
Yeah,
weird.
That's really where I went to. It's like, if it wasn't actually Instagram, I don't know, anime version Instablam, just off the top of my head.
Yeah,
and
as a moment together, and again, like very accelerated, like meeting, relationship starting story, but as like a capper of like, yeah, no, we've decided to work on this project together, and here's our first step. I think it's a very, very cute moment. And then there's a brand. Brands are always messing up the good things.
Did you get upset about the Gibson?
A little bit. You know why?
Go on.
I know why.
Yeah, because it's in my notes. In that scene where they are sort of jamming in the in Carole's apartment, the Gibson guitar is so obviously a 3D model that they animated on top of, in a way that stands out even more because Carole's keyboard is hand animated, is not a 3D model like that. Although sometimes when she plays piano, I think her hands might be. I couldn't figure that out. It's so super obvious with this guitar, and I get the feeling that it's so like in Gran Turismo games, a big part of those reasons those games never had like car damage for a long time is because in order to make the deal to get the license to use the real cars, they said, you can't show our cars damage. That would look bad for our brand. And I'm really wondering if they were like, you have to show our guitar on model at all times. And like, they would only accept the like, use this like scan 3D model or whatever to make sure that it's on model at all times. And I'm just like, but it looks bad now.
So I get it. I want to preface it with I get it. But I'm also going to say I don't care because, yeah, they had to make a couple deals probably to get the show the funding it needed. And if that's really the most egregious part of it,
well, it's a music
couldn't give a damn.
collaboration show.
Yeah, it feels fine. And I'm like, good. It wasn't anything more. I mean, you didn't have Space McDonald's. It's still being McDonald's all over the place, and how good the McRib is. This all everything that was product placement made sense, and that's why I'm like, you know what, cool.
I'm trying to.
I know what you mean. Though, like having 3D models in animated shows always throws me off.
No, honestly, not even that. Like, I really don't mind shows that lean on 3D animation. We were watching Blue Sub 6 the other night, which was 3D animation from 1999 mixed with hand animation.
Yeah, that's a throwback.
It looked like when you watch it on modern monitors, which don't have the inbuilt blurring of CRT TVs, it looked like rendered from a PS2 strategy game.
Yeah,
it was wild.
I watched it a few years ago. Yeah, it does.
That being said, I still think it looks fine. I still think it's functional. It doesn't actually bother me. I think part of what bothered me specifically about this guitar is I notice almost no other 3D animated elements of the show.
And I'll tell you, I picked out a few along the way.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of like, they don't jar it enough for me to care to make a stink about it.
Oh yeah.
So that's I'm like
honestly, it's not that bad. It's
yeah.
I am just kind of trying to think of like other elements of like major product placement in anime. Like it definitely happens. Oh my god, we could talk about Tiger and Bunny, but that's
let me throw out Code Geass Pizza Hut.
Oh really? Oh
okay, show I'm adding to the list later.
Steins Gate, Dr. Pepper.
I'm sorry, that wasn't Dr. Pepper, that was DK Pepper.
Oh, the coupe.
Yeah.
God, okay. But like
yeah, they do a lot of almost branding.
Yeah. But because like any anime that you watch like season to season, if you actually watched it aired, they all do the thing of like, this show is brought to you by Canon scanners and photography or whatever. So it's like brands being the reason that shows exist is nothing new. Like that part's not out weirded. It's just like there seems like a weird demands made by the companies in like the animation process of the show. Like if you want to say, oh, we want our product to be shown doing a good thing, like okay, but saying like, hey, make this a 3D model, otherwise it doesn't look good enough, that's a level like.
Yeah, I get it. Like, believe me, I would think, I would want to believe that if an exec saw the animation here and said, wow, everything looks so good, you would trust them to make the guitar look good. Am I disappointed? Yes. But again, it's like, I get it. It is what it is.
Yeah, but before I knew that this stuff, branded stuff was in here, kind of because of deals or whatever, I had no problem with it. Like I think the way that it's worked into the show is all fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I said, it's not egregious. It's more or less tastefully done, and that's the nice part of it. But that's the end of the first episode.
We made it.
Yay. Only an hour in and we've covered 1 of 4 episodes.
Well, I think it'll get a little easier because, like anything else, the first episode's kind of front-loaded. The following episodes tend to streamline.
Yeah. All right, so let's jump then right into episode 2.
Born to Run. Kind of opens with Carole and Tuesday at Carole's place. Should we just call it Carole and Tuesday's place?
The apartment, yeah.
Alarms going off. Who knows? Carole already has a new job.
I'm sorry, who's going on?
Carole's alarm?
And
Ziggy.
Its name is Ziggy.
The owl
Ziggy has a
off.
name, and you will respect Ziggy.
Carole wakes up, sees Tuesday on the couch. Carole wakes her up and says, hey, I'm heading out if you want to clean up the place because somehow Tuesday had made a big mess.
Mm-hmm.
Hurricane Tuesday.
I'm so torn as far as the time span between last episode, this episode, because my brain wants to put it the next day.
Yeah.
But then you run into the question of how did she get a job already? How did the mess get made?
It definitely seems like one of those jobs that, like, if you were going through a temp service, would just be like, "Hey, send me a person."
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Like,
get the
it's not like
impression
there
it's
was
something like that.
a like interview process or.
Hear
I
me
can
out.
understand that.
What if in this future, and I hate that I'm going to say this, there's an app for that?
Yeah, like where's the Uber representation in this show? Well, all the cars are self-driving.
I mean,
that's that is a really weird thing. Like you could have gone down the gig economy dystopia route, but instead they went down the AI removes the humanity from everything dystopia, but you still gotta work at Burger King, you know?
I mean, yeah, I would say I feel like that's the more interesting one in the moment, but that can change. At least to me.
Carole heads off to work, and Tuesday wakes up. It's like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna clean, and struggles with cleaning because she's never had to clean before. And we all can see where this is going.
But she's very willing to try, and
She
I love her
absolutely
for
is.
that.
She's not lazy. She's definitely she put on her handkerchief, grabbed the broom, and somehow
and she tried.
The broom.
She tried, and then disaster happened.
We do a switch over to Angela and Tao, and we hear Tao talk about how he's really into AI and how he is perfecting music. He's made all sorts of different programs just to find the perfect song. He claims he's made it, and since Angela's the one who's going to be singing it, he kind of explains it all for her. I still think Tao's kind of weird, but that's just how he is. He is who he is.
I was super curious, actually, as to what Tao's getting out of this deal by, like, being an AI company and then deciding to go with a human singer.
Not just that, but the mom is, as she puts it, no longer remembered. So how famous is Angela really?
I mean, it's like Disney star kid model thing.
But don't you think you would have wanted someone with more name recognition? And washed up actress's daughter?
I mean, Angela seems like she's kind of a big deal in the modeling world. And her mom is just kind of trying to push her to get into the entertainment industry as well so that she can keep being someone even when she gets old and can't model.
Which just makes her seem kind of sad. Fortunately. But anyway, so we got that conversation, then we switch back over to Carole, who has a job that I actually want. He is a professional crier at a funeral.
I love this.
And I am down for that. Except it does not work out for her too well, because the priest has a butterfly that is flying around his head. And
which is a pity, because you can quite easily make it look like you're crying by laughing.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what I thought she was going to do.
I've laughed at funerals.
You want my read on this funeral? Hear me out. We are witnessing another future prediction. This is like Elon Musk's funeral. They're going to have to pay people to be there.
I mean, people already do that.
I get it. But specifically because he was so important. Like, you can't tell me that's not going to happen.
I don't know what you mean. On this note, if you are hearing this, I am willing to be that person.
I'm not saying don't get paid, Bob. I'm just saying I imagine this is reality will imitate art.
So we've got Carole, who's laughing because the butterfly lands on the priest's head. And while I feel like that's a reasonable thing to happen, she loses her job from it.
Sometimes, especially in somber places, it's real easy to get the giggle fits.
Oh yeah.
At least for me, anyway. I've had that happen definitely more than once.
I'm still here. And just thinking about how great a job that would be.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would
Wow,
love to
Bob.
be the person that's laughing.
Here's the thing,
Just
Bob.
as emotional.
How much do you think that's really going to pay you? Because
I get the
got to
purpose.
be able
That's
to
not
get
the
to the
purpose
job.
of the job. In fact, her boss is there, and he's the one who fires her. We assume it's not shown on screen, but it's a logical assumption.
I would want to hire some hot woman to like show up and just be like, "You bastard," and like throw a glass at my coffin and then walk out.
I have told Bob how I want my funeral to go. And Bob, let's see if you remember this. Do you remember specifically what I said I wanted to happen?
Yes, about Doctor Who.
Yes, I want someone to come in, running in, someone much younger than me, just running in the same, like maybe a size or two too big for them clothes, and just tell them like, "Hold on, wait a minute," as if it's going to happen again.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like that, or Viking funeral by way of cruise missile.
Well, Carole unfortunately loses her job and comes home to find Tuesday somehow having, in the efforts of cleaning, made a worse mess. And instead of getting angry, Carole just is like, okay, we're going to work together. And the process finds out that Tuesday is not poor because she has a black card, credit card that has no limit. Tuesday's like, I can't use this because they'll track me, which makes sense. Even though we find out later that that doesn't matter.
Yeah, which makes sense, but credit to Tuesday for thinking about that.
That would suck to know that you have the ability to have paid for a lot of things, but you can't.
Oh, wholeheartedly agree.
All out to having your debit phone on, or your debit card on your phone.
I kind of want to know why it still looks like a debit card at that point.
It's probably one of those artifacts, kind of like the save icon.
Sure.
How it looks like disk. It probably just carried over because.
I can make the grandpas and grandmas.
Yeah, and then it just became ingrained in society, and then society just assumed, that has always meant this.
Also, when you're that rich and fancy, you got to have a way to show it off.
My goodness,
fact. I do like for the trope of I left and then my roommate made a disaster. Carole just was like, cool, we'll fix this. No exaggerated, unnecessary, energetic kind of being irate or upset. Just like, we'll just take care of this. Mm-hmm. It just made her feel very real.
Can we? I need to ask about this scene. Can we say that there is something called affluent moe?
Go on.
Because normal moe is you have someone who seems like a normal person, but they are so like naive or childlike that they don't even know what soccer is.
Uh-huh.
And then you have somebody like Tuesday who is like so rich and pampered all her life that she doesn't know how to do normal people things. She might also not know what soccer is just because she lives so sheltered within money.
Soccer, is that like lacrosse?
Yeah, kind of exactly like that. Like
I don't.
Would
that just still be moe though?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what the difference would be. Like, there's something about normally rich people don't fall into that category because they come from money and wealth or power or whatever. They have a certain like unearned confidence that they bring to everything, and it can make them very arrogant. But specifically with Tuesday, like, she's willing to try, she's willing to work, she's willing to help, to do whatever. So she doesn't have that. Her naivete is like honest curiosity as well. So it's
genuine ignorance.
She's a really interesting situation of like, oh, she doesn't know anything. Oh, it's because she's rich. Wait a second.
Maybe it's not affluent moe, but moe by way of affluence.
I'm just gonna make a note about that somewhere. It's gotta consider that in the future.
We must consult the elder Weebs.
It's like that that meme of like, how much could it cost? It's a single banana. What, $10? Anyway,
After cleaning up,
I just had to get that off my chest.
after cleaning everything up, Carole and Tuesday talk about how they really liked the song that they made and they wanted to play it on a real piano. Is something that Carole's really jonesing for. Apparently, pianos are super rare here on Mars.
It doesn't surprise me. That definitely seems like a luxury item if you're making a real piano.
Yeah, I was gonna
Carole.
say it's probably more of the luxury aspect because considering how much they've built up infrastructure, I can't imagine they don't exist on Mars. Just when you're the poor, raise your hand if you're not. You can't get access to a real grand piano easily.
Thanks to Carole's ragamuffin connections, she happens to know a guy who knows a guy who happens to know of a piano at a studio, which is
Not
great.
studio. And this is important, and I promise you it is later.
Isn't it at the immigration offices
Yep.
or something? Yeah.
The Immigrants Memorial Hall.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So they start heading down there, and of course it's quasi New York, but not New York. They have their Times Square-esque screens running. We see a DJ on one. We see appears to be a presidential announcement. The lady who seems awfully familiar.
Yes, an interview with the presidential candidate, the governor of some town where somebody
Herschel.
came from.
Yeah. Herschel. One Miss Valerie Simmons.
For some reason, Tuesday's like, oh crap, even though ain't no one knows really the connection there. It is weird, now that I think about it.
I think she's just like seeing her mom on the screen is just like kind of
Mm-hmm.
bringing it to be a little more real, her situation.
We do a flip over to Angela. And she's working with Tao to just practice the music, and Tao has her sing her scales.
Yeah, Tao's like, hey, these are the notes that are in my perfect song, sing them.
And she sings, and she sounds fine, a little scratchy. And Tao catches up on that and turns on his torture device to help her out.
Mm-hmm.
When chairs attack.
It's like, boy, oh boy, Angela, you signed up for this.
Yeah, she's gonna be a puppet.
Yeah, she's fine with it.
Yeah.
That's what she signed up for.
Yeah, that's literally what she signed for.
Literally.
Verbatim.
Yeah.
Carole and Tuesday make it to the immigration station. And lo and behold, Carole's friend is Roddy, someone who becomes part of our...
No, Carole's friend is one of those like security guards there.
Oh, that's right. He has that surprise face later on.
And he's like, no, I can't let you in. And she goes in.
We learned this because we meet Roddy because he's doing audio work, I'm assuming, for
DJ Etrigan or whatever.
Yeah, Erdogan.
He's like
the biggest ego.
Setting up the like audio equalizers and such for whatever concert this guy is going to be doing.
Yeah, as I saw in someone's notes, the Fortnitification of concerts.
Okay, yo. The way this looks and like all of the digital screens and the shirt that says "Who am I?" I am just like, oh, this guy is the worst, and he would absolutely get a skin in Fortnite for whatever his like shitty EDM but super influencer presence.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I just say I saw your notes and I'm like, yo. Also, you know who he kind of reminds me of, if we're gonna continue talking about our sequel or bringing up points to the Cowboy Bebop expanded universe.
Yeah,
I feel like he's related to Andy.
Oh, maybe.
Yes.
Just something about his energy, just like there's that overinflated ego, that sense of presence.
Yeah, but he's a douchebag.
Listen, I didn't say he was a 1-to-1, but I'm like, man, he's kind of this show's Andy.
Carole and Tuesday are able to perform their song, which we got to hear a more expanded version of. Roddy, the electronics guy, taping it.
He's like, I'm here.
He puts it on the internet, which logically makes sense that it still exists, and it takes off.
Oh, it goes on Instagram after all. Okay, hang on. I took a screen cap.
The intro Weebs.
The video that he uploads has a final name of CR_MT_54651_66.mov.
Does not compute.
Wow, they still got MOV files.
So here's the thing.
Yeah.
If it defaults to an MOV file, that means that it is most likely a descendant of an Apple iPhone. So Apple has won the smart. Yeah, Apple. So Apple has won the smartphone wars, and what was the one we had earlier?
PC wars.
Yeah. But the thing is, I'm trying to. I feel like if I were doing this, I would make that sort of be a small nod at subtle world building, but I can't figure out what it is because we already know that the date is around April 11th, 0049. So that doesn't seem to be a date of capture string of numbers. I can't think of what CRMT might be. It's not something associated with his
M as in Michael?
The refugee. What's the name of the place? The refugee memorial?
It's the Immigrants Memorial Hall.
Oh, okay.
Was it Michael Tango or November Tango in the file name?
Michael.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, if it was NT as in November Tango, I could see it just being a cute little, Carole and Tuesday. Obviously, he couldn't know that, but it's the cute thing in the show.
That would be really cute. But usually
I don't know.
It's something about, what app was used to capture it or something like that. I don't know. I got stuck on that, and I was just like, okay, well, it would be this. It could be this. Anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, it's and I will say the cutest chase scene ensues.
Actually. The fact that he has an account and the fact that the video spread so fast means he already had a decent following. So my question
he builds Gunpla.
Yeah, I did not catch that at first, but looking at his account, he has like a Gundam head-ish kind of profile picture.
Oh yeah, he was playing with one at one point.
He was specifically like cleaning it off or adding a layer of clear lacquer on top, something like that. It's just like, oh, you are like a professional Gunpla builder, and I was just like, they never say that out loud, but it's just like, yeah, it's right there. You can, and that would kind of explain why he had a following. He has a
Twitch stream. He does daily. I guarantee you.
Oh,
how else did he have that into the DJ?
Yeah. God, I love it.
Yeah, the DJ thing's really his side gig.
Well, yeah, that's how he makes money. He's an audio nerd.
Yeah.
I love it. I need me with a DJ.
But yeah, like I love this chase scene after, they play, and then another security guard comes after them. And I love that the guard focuses, and it's kind of, a thing that will also be kind of addressed on a social level later in the series, that the cop goes after Carole, not Tuesday, giving Tuesday time to get her very large and speed encumbering guitar put up, slowly disembark the stage, and do just the cutest little run with it as Carole leads this guy winding through Scooby-Doo style the rows. I just love it because all the motion in that is just perfect.
Yeah, it was really good.
I love it. Like, I can't tell you how many times I just watched that because just, again, the movement and the fluidity of it, the natural nature of it, just made me happy.
Yeah, Studio Bones does good animation work.
After our lovely chase, we switch over to Gus, who is once again at the bar. His favorite place to be. A couple rows over as a couple, watching the video that Roddy had posted. And at first he's upset because, darn it, ain't no one like music like he does. Then he happens to like it. Unfortunately, he knows Roddy, and Roddy is also kind of weird because he can use his data tracking, which exists on Instagram, to tell the exact location of where someone is.
Yeah, location.
Yeah,
this is why you turn off geotagging on your phone.
Yeah,
very real things that exist.
That's
existing.
Existing
That's
technology.
horrible.
Yeah, we live in a dystopia. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, I will say
my head
though,
is in the sand.
Well, I gathered.
And
Bob, there are many things going on.
And your head is geotagged.
Oh, good. I love though, for problematic issues aside of what happens between Gus and Roddy and the tracking of two young women to their home.
Yeah, it's gross. It's so bad.
That problematic element aside, I do love the fact that it's like, okay, but this is real technology and this is not that hard to do. And they, if you really have your brain shut off, or your head in the sand, like, yeah, this looks real futuristic. I'm like, man, existing technology, what a thing. But it just made sense.
It does. It's not real to the show. You know what I mean? It seems both remember, this is 2019. Mm-hmm. So it's a logical leap from the writer's point.
No, not really. It was a big thing into it. Like I remember.
Yeah, it was existing for some time, Bob.
Yeah, this has been a thing. Facebook has it on their shit too for years.
I remember it got
facial recognition,
a big boost around all the protests in the wake of George Floyd in 2020. So I think there was a much bigger awareness of it then. But yeah, it's been around quite a bit longer than that.
I will also say, to your point about the facial recognition, I mean, that was already common knowledge at that point in 2019 in existence for all kinds of versions of law enforcement, government agencies, and I am sure very public sector areas. I have not encountered it, but I'm almost certain my employer uses, without going to names, uses that when we are dealing with certain types of instances of fraud in different higher areas than what I work in. I'm sure they have access to that, but no one openly tells us they do.
Well, I don't disagree that it exists. My phone tells me who's tagged in my photos whenever I take a picture, and everyone realizes that Facebook is listening to give you specific ads. Being said, still weird.
Yeah, if we keep going down this hole, it's going to get so dark.
So,
it is depressing.
We'll move on to Gus and Roddy finding Carole, episode 2.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We end on his face smushed through their door saying, I am now your manager.
Here's Gus. Very, very much, you cannot convince me that is very much supposed to be the here's Johnny equivalent.
Absolutely.
Like, intentionally. I mean, it's all just there.
Except he's got a big smile and rosy cheek.
Yeah, he looks so dumb of ass but big of heart in that scene. It's just
and
great.
Scary of face.
Yeah, oh yeah, scary of face, big of face, dumb of ass. That has to be probably, though. I love the cute chasing. That has to be probably my favorite moment, just because it's so easily recognizable to what it's aping from.
Yeah. But yeah, we end on that, and that moves us into episode 3,
which is Fire and Rain. Which, as Joe mentioned at the beginning of the episode, all the songs are based around music. We open up to our new best friends forever, Carole and Tuesday and Gus and Roddy, all going to the local pizza place that happens to serve tomatoes of the top of their pizzeria.
Yeah, it's their selling point. We got organic tomatoes.
We have real tomato.
It's actually kind of cool.
Biological tomatoes.
As Gus put it, farm to table.
Roof to stomach.
They all decide to order a margarita pizza. Not a bad choice. Maybe not my favorite, but I do like the whole slices of mozzarella.
Same.
For breakfast pizza, I feel like that's a better choice. There's less cheese, so it's not as heavy.
Is it not perfect that aspiring musicians and a would-be musician and a audio engineer would just have pizza for breakfast?
Mm-hmm.
That just seems so on point.
They talk about how many Instagram followers they've gotten, or not followers, but views the video's gotten. And Gus.
Sorry, I'm taking this back to pizza for a second. I would just like to point out that there are other people in that restaurant, and that restaurant is open at that time. So breakfast pizza is a thing, apparently.
Oh, I'm not arguing that, but I just think it's like specifically for these four, it's like, yes, we're going for pizza. And I just love it. It just makes me feel young again.
We've established that Gus and Roddy are friends, but Roddy still has to look up who Gus has managed before, which I find a little weird, but okay. We find out that
Gus... they're friends outside of the business, and just never really come up.
That's an interesting age difference there.
Yeah,
I've seen these kinds of friendships before. I don't know.
I absolutely have seen this type of friendship, and because Roddy is in the music business, I'm sure that Gus has been around.
Yeah, I'm sure he's been aware of Gus and encountered him at different points.
Especially with that band Lazy Sandwich, which is an uber amazing band name.
Yeah, a Radiohead cover band. I'm like, yes.
Motorhead.
Or Motorhead, thank you. Sorry. Motorhead, thank you. Because I didn't even have my notes.
Manager for Flora.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that name keeps coming up. I'm sure it's
nothing. The kids, including Roddy, have never heard of them, but TNT do trust Gus enough to go ahead and make it professional.
So, in this instance, just for clarity, Bob, Roddy is just Basil exposition for us. He's just there to be the audience information center. I believe if this wasn't a series and actually just kind of happening in a real world scenario, he probably knows who he is. It's just to fill us and the girls in.
I mean, he probably just knows him as some old producer dude. You don't necessarily know the details of all the stuff your elder coworkers have done in their careers.
And to your point, even Joe, I would say, just letting my mind think about it, as he may even be one of those. Oh, you heard about Gus, right? Oh, he's this old has-been.
Mm-hmm.
I could even see that being, since he seems to be down on his luck, feels hard, but he's definitely not at the top of his game.
Yeah.
Roddy says, you want to get famous? I happen to know a DJ. And Gus is like, you want to get famous? You got to make your voice sound better. And the girls are like, okay.
DJ, what's my name?
Yes, Etrigand. Even though that's not it, that is what I shall call him. It's like Ertigand.
Fair. Erdogan.
DJ Who Dis.
New DJ Who Dis.
Hang on a second.
Uh-huh.
Future DJ Who Dis.
Go on.
I'm just going to reference that during this whole meeting, we did touch base with Tuesday's mom, who Spencer has established, hey, she's in the city. And World's Best Mom's like, well, I don't want any press on this. She'll come back if she wants to, but I've got the election to focus on. Which, wow.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to sidestep us real quick. In both the first episode, but more prominently in this episode, this is where you get your very first clear look at the proof that this is in the Bebop universe. Because again, it's kind of like initially it's a blink and you miss it, and later episodes you hear it mentioned more openly. But when they show the prices of the pizza, they're using the Wulong symbol for the currency that existed in Bebop when you'd see the bounty heads listed.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to point that out because that was that instance of when I behind the scenes told the guy's like, hey, you know, there's a thing that ties it in. Can you find it? Because arguably any series could be set on Mars. You know, this could have been way later Martian successor Nadesco, arguably.
This could have been the Dark Tower on Mars.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that's kind of like your hard evidence, because spoilers, you're never going to see the swordfish, because obviously this is post the series. You're never going to see Jet Black, the Bebop, Faye, anyone.
I have a question.
Not here. Yes.
Is the fact that it's in the Bebop verse, like, is that like a thing that fans kind of play up more? Like, was that a conscious decision that he's linking his universes together specifically? Because I always felt like this sort of thing is just when you have a creator who's like, yeah, I'm just gonna like use.
He has openly stated that these two share the universe.
Okay.
Yeah, believe me, that was one of those two. I'm like, no, and that's when I looked it up when I first heard about this show. I'm like, okay, it is. He literally says so.
Because like that's the sort of shit I would do. Like if across my own stories,
Mm-hmm.
like I'll just like reuse shit because it's like this is just what the currency is.
No, and I 100% get that, and that's kind of what I was assuming as well. But no, when I first heard about this, no one told me what the kind of proof in the pudding was. So first off, when I looked up, I was like, okay, Watanabe says after Bebop, same universe, same Mars. Okay, and then watching, it's like, the Wulong. So here's our soft ties. But yes, that's it. Also, there's a thing we'll discuss later because it's tied to kind of my problematic tags at the end. That I'll explain that also you kind of, while not a clear through line, you can see, this is happening again from Bebop.
Okay.
So sorry, I didn't mean to sidestep. Please continue.
The only other thing is we get to see Angela again with her own AI pet, which happens to be a rabbit, and they're just asking her a bunch of questions. I don't know if this is to emphasize that she's still an actress.
She's still popular. A celebrity. Yeah. I got the read of this is like some... Sorry, go ahead.
Or they're just trying to establish that she still has some clout in the
she's
industry.
Popular.
I got the impression this is like future Cribs, kind of.
Yeah. See, I was trying to figure out, was this like a piece of video generated by AI to be the sort of like behind the scenes content?
Yo, it could have been, because we never see this or hear about this again.
Yeah, and it's kind of, it's paced weirdly. The questions are kind of weird. There's ways
and her answers are all really simple.
And there's like, she jumps through space weirdly in the course of this short clip. They never say anything about it, but I was just like, it just struck
it feels
me.
creepy.
It was odd. Yeah. There's something very artificial about it, I guess.
Yeah, I was gonna say Uncanny Valley. Yeah, it's like, this is a dialogue that's happening. These are two persons interacting. But yeah, the more you say that, I'm like, yeah, maybe it really was, because when we see this scene, immediately it cuts to Angela walking in on Tao. He's working on something. So yeah, you're probably right. I've missed that this whole time.
It's a weird one. Like just a theory, but like it feels weird. It feels weird.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, the more I think about it, yeah, that really does make sense, because even their answers, like you said, the responses, the dialogue is there. It doesn't feel tense or anything, but it feels stilted, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think you're right.
We cue into Carole and Tuesday, and they're just doing normal things like going to the laundromat to wash some clothes. And that's when they make their next song. Beating up the machines as they go, and having this poor guy sitting in the middle looking confused and then joining in on them. Does he get to join the band? No, he's just there.
This is a improv everywhere sort of deal.
Yeah, and maybe he just wanted to be part of a thing. It's cool.
I really thought that by this point in the future, performances of Stomp would have been outlawed.
Never. In fact, what do you think caused the gate disaster?
Well, I mean, that's why it got outlawed. There was the incident.
But there were no survivors of Stomp, so no one knows it was actually Stomp.
Oh, Survivors of Stomp is a really weird support group.
Okay, yeah.
Okay,
anyway, we go and see that Gus has a short bit with the bartender, saying he's going to give up drinking, and then has another drink. And Carole and Tuesday are at their, voice exercise, also known as yoga.
Space yoga.
Universal yoga.
Yes.
In space.
Now sing. Now downward dog
everything
position.
Is in space.
Now sing.
His delivery of like something like, and now project or feel it in your womb. I'm like, oh, that's a sentence I just don't want to hear from you.
It's very interesting, but set for humor, and it's actually kind of funny. Constantly, Gus is just saying, "Boy, things have changed."
Yeah, I do love that.
Switch over to Angela, who is visiting with Tao again and getting in that torture device of doom, and he's like, "No, you're going to sing it my way," because she's going through the scales, and she's like, "I can't hit this note. I don't know what you're doing."
Yeah, and he's like, "No, my song is perfect. I am not changing it to fit the artist, so you must change to fit the song."
I'm not saying you're garbage, but you're garbage.
And to get her to hit the notes, he scares the living crap out of her.
When chairs attack too.
I would have the same reaction as her. I'd be hitting those notes too. Oh, good Lord, nope.
But I feel like anecdotally those kind of stories exist. So like you scare someone to get them to hit their note, be it like in a musical.
I think it was more like
production,
to prove to her that she can hit that note.
Right. Yeah. Right. And
like,
it was all show.
Do it.
Yeah, see, you're capable of it. Now do it on purpose.
It's like, you can do it. Now do it.
Evil man evil. We switch back over to TNT. And Roddy's like, "Hey, just so you know, I was able to get up with Etrigan, and you can meet up with him. Yay!" I guess. Because they need that for their own clout in the entertainment. They need to have a DJ associated with them.
That's how you get big, is you have a DJ promote you.
That's how it rolls on Mars.
DJ who dis?
DJ, where am I? I don't know.
That's a new shirt design, Nick. Write it down. DJ who dis?
Go to Etrigan's house. Security's like, "Oh, girls, we've been expecting you. After you, please just follow the arrows on the floor." And then Gus tries to go in, and they're like, "Nope, not on the list." I guess Roddy could only get it so far, or he was playing a prank. The girls go in.
I do like
after. Oh, go ahead.
When they go in, the holographic, I'm assuming, or actually under the floor lighting directional patterns. Yes,
like on airplanes.
Yeah, I don't know why I like it. It feels like such a pretentious thing that only the rich would have. Unless you were like in an office building trying to go to an interview or something where it would make sense. But in a house, I'm like, yeah, this feels kind of pretentious, but I love it. It's such a weird feeling for me.
So the girls are sitting there waiting for Etrigan, who's out in the pool surrounded by beautiful girls. Eventually, he makes his way inside and sees them and is like, "Oh, yeah, that." And then undresses in front of them. No.
To be fair, we at least get the confirmation it's not as bad as it could have been. Believe me. I was right there with you. Yeah, it's gross. Hands down, it's gross, but it's not as bad as it could have been. Like, Mr. I'm gonna order you.
Blech.
Yeah,
he starts working out. The girls are like, "Hey, we wrote some music. We think it's pretty good. If you want to give it a listen."
And he's like, "You wrote some music? I don't want to hear it. It's crap."
Again, calling modern AI, quote unquote AI enthusiasts.
And Tuesday's like, no, not today. Satan out my house. And she just grabs her music and sets it on fire in front of him, setting off the sprinklers in the house.
I love her. She's such a good girl.
Etrigan honestly doesn't seem too upset by it. Almost seems impressed as of what I took from it.
He's weird.
He is, but his reaction is not what I was expecting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And from his little spiel, like, we get the information that, like, he's a DJ and all his stuff is, like, done with AI because he's, like, invested heavily in the AI entertainment sector.
Blech.
Yeah.
They run out of the house because apparently running away from things is just the Carole and Tuesday thing to do.
Yeah, they kind of laugh at the fact that they end up running away from trouble.
Almost a bit. Roddy gets the message. Go ahead.
I do like the like, are you experiencing deja vu? Nah, it must just be a you thing. Let's go.
They should have had the Benny Hill theme on the soundtrack.
Oh,
pretty much.
Someone abridge Carole and Tuesday and do that.
Roddy gets the message on his phone. Oh, Etrigan's house has had an alarm. And he's like, oh, I don't know anything about that.
Not my problem. I didn't do that. Now, can we talk about some of that art in Etrigan's house?
Oh my god, yes. So there's a Banksy in there.
Yeah. There's a Banksy. You know what else there is too that I just love, and I hate that I love it? The emoji tower.
I didn't even notice anything else because I was laughing too hard at the Banksy.
It was after the Banksy in the room that they eventually just talk in the left corner. It's just the far top left corner as we're viewing it. There's just this pile of emojis like stacked on top of each other to the ceiling. And I love that I hate it because you see the smiley one, and I think the frowny one. And I'm like, theater. But yeah, they're there. No poop emoji, though, which is disappointing.
It's in the bathroom.
He is the poop emoji.
Right. You're right. Yeah.
Ends this episode.
Yeah, nice kind of little clean third episode. I'll be honest with you.
Like, they get out of there and they're like, fuck you, we'll make it anyway.
Yeah. Screw you, we'll make our own music. Hookers and
blackjack.
But no, I love this because, and part of the reason I had to put this in there is like, you get to now kind of experience Gus and Roddy, and you get a feel for essentially the core cast now. You have all four of your major Carole and Tuesday players on the side of Carole and Tuesday.
Yeah, and you get a sense of what they're all about.
And you get a little bit more of the world. Like I said, the like we touched on the pizza place, like, because growing fresh vegetables on a terraforming planet and having direct access to them, like, that's probably going to be really hard. So it makes sense that, a restaurant like that would exist. And it's, one of their core elements is literally grown upstairs. And like, you get a lot of just good visual world building as well. And I just love it.
Oh, like, okay, so like the first shot of Carole when she's waking up and heading out to work, she chugs from like a gallon jug of water that's labeled drinking water.
Also, you know what kind of drink she used to wake Tuesday up?
The durian drink.
That's right. Yep. And it keeps popping up. And I love it because they don't forget their world building and their, product placement, their own in-world product placement.
I like the idea that the fact that everybody is used to drinking durian soda is actually a nod to the fact that this is a low-key commercialism dystopia future.
Yeah. In fact, there's an episode between this and 18 where Angela and her mother are discussing something. Angela is kind of accusing her mother of having done a thing without saying what it is outright. It's like, you did this. Why you did this thing behind my back? Yes, I did, but we can't just say no to the Durian contract. We signed it. And it's just like the Durian rises. It's the ever-present tyrannical Durian. And like, I almost wish that this had been something Watanabe had thought of ahead of time, because imagine what it would have been like just to see Spike and Jet or Faye with like the can of Durian drink. Or just having them drink it, and it's like Faye's like, you know that thing's gross, right?
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Or just
but
like,
yeah,
like of all the things to be able to grow naturally on Mars, it had to be Durian, huh?
I know, right? It's like, of course you'd be here. And meanwhile, where does a durian grow anyway? I gotta ask.
Popular Southeast Asia, I think mostly.
Also,
okay,
like,
I was gonna.
I actually don't know.
I know that flavor-wise, like candy and drinks and stuff, it's a lot of Southeast Asia.
I thought it was Australia for some reason, because I could just imagine if it was the case, some Australians coming to Mars. It's like, of course you'd be here.
Well, the problem with durian is the smell, not the flavor, right?
True.
Right.
I've heard it tastes okay.
The taste is pretty mellow, yeah.
Well, never gonna try it knowingly. If someone gives it to me and then accidentally, sure, I'll give that a go.
I'd go for it. I would brave the durian.
There's durian flavored candies, I think, that pop up around here sometimes.
Tell you what, Nick, if you get some durian drink, whenever we all meet up, we can. I will sample the durian drink.
All right, I'm gonna hold you to that if I remember.
No durian pizza.
Ooh,
ew.
Huh.
Not even as a dessert?
No, not even as breakfast.
Anyway, we got one more episode to talk about here. Episode 18. Only love can break your heart. Now, Chuck.
No. Go on.
It is not unusual that we'll pick the first episodes and then grab something from later on in the series.
Or to be loved by anyone, but go on.
Right. What's new, Pussycat? That's not it. Never mind. Why specifically this episode? Because like there is a lot going on here.
So one could argue that there is essentially two major arcs.
Actually, I guess maybe what I'm really trying to ask for is, this episode is clearly showing some of the bigger stuff that is going on by the end of the episode. What are maybe some of the? It is always a hard pick to pick this, the late series episode. So what are some of the things you had to turn down for the sake of what's in this episode? That's really what I want.
Well, audience, earlier I mentioned OG Bulldog and the Mermaid Sisters, and those are good contenders for episode 4 because it's a song that just goes fucking bullshit in a kind of doo-wop style. Please listen to it. You will love it. It will get stuck in your head. You need it. And as well as a all Latin lyric virtuoso gangster rap opera. Let that sink in. Also really good. We are now past the will they be the next top idol? Spoiler. No. But they also yes. But anyway, it's essentially to show this show is not just about the music. Like, can they achieve their dream? It's that, or at least achieve their goal. They did the thing. They went on that idol show. And, Mars is Brightest. They went on. They were judged. Things happened. Moving on. Yeah, and I guess it's critical to say, without going into too much detail, spoiler, you've got 5 seconds, and by the time I finish the sentence, to stop listening if you don't want to hear this. They get a contract, even though they technically do not win.
That happens a lot.
Yeah, Mars is Brightest. Yeah, and that's not uncommon. It's interesting about how they don't win but still win. I like kind of how the show handled it, just because there was a lot of ways it could have been handled. And it was very dramatic, not just, these songs, but what happened behind the scenes. Trigger warning 1. There is instances of obsessive stalking and aggressive action taken, particularly against Tuesday, by another contestant, as well as sexual aggressiveness. And it's I will say it feels so wrong to say it's handled tastefully. It is not the worst it could have been, but you definitely get the feel of it's not good, and it's handled in kind of what I would call the best way a depiction of this could be handled if it had to happen. And there are reasons I believe it was done this way that is relevant to this current conversation. The point is that they did the thing. They got the contract. And a lot of shows, that's just where it ends. They did the thing. They're going to be music stars now. But this is showing that it doesn't just go from we got the contract, now we big. Now it's showing, okay, what happens after you get the contract? There's finding a producer. There's getting a studio. There's all kinds of steps. But also throughout the first half of the season, or the series rather, we get this constant background about Tuesday's mom, Valerie, and her her campaign to be president of Mars. And she's running, again, this is 2019. We're definitely pulling from Western culture at that time of a very hardline conservative anti-immigrant status.
Anti-immigration
platform, yeah.
Anti-immigration is like a platform, a relevant point in most places and times.
Again, yeah, to be fair, you are correct. Again, I'm saying Western because, again, a lot of this really draws off of Western kind of sensibility and design. Or not design, but kind of action and history, even recent history. And so that's also still going on. And there's while the story is, yes, about Carole and Tuesday, what's going on with Valerie doesn't stop. It's only escalating. And that's going to affect both directly and indirectly Tuesday, and arguably Carole, an immigrant. And this affects people they know, also in the music industry. And it's not just a someone else's problem, it's a everyone problem. So I wanted to show everyone here that this is not just okay, we got the label, hooray. There's more to this, and there's kind of an ongoing subplot from the beginning that you're not sure is going to be truly relevant until it is, and get that payoff. And so here we are. We have now entered the political arc, the presidential election or campaign arc. And it does take a darker tone as it goes on. This is where, I guess, before we get to the end of this episode, in this episode, there is a content warning. There is a terrorist attack. Put an asterisk on that for later episodes. But there's also later depictions of police brutality, particularly against persons in this depiction of color, of minorities, but of color. And it kind of has toned down vibes of what happened to George Floyd. And you have abuse of power by the police. There is also, for one character we have met so far, going to be depictions of depression, drug and alcohol abuse. And the narrative from part 1 and part 2 of this season also include, unfortunately, some negative depictions of trans persons. And I'll just cover this here. In Bebop, you had Venus, where there's this little bit of pollen makes you blind, depending on certain circumstances. Something about the air and the terraforming and the process can affect a percentage of the population and changes their gender. just by being there. And I'll be honest, it's not clear if it changes it completely or makes them truly gender neutral. It's ambiguous enough, but the impression I get is that it changes their gender, because we see a picture at one point of Angela's mother when she was younger and a man, a very heavy man, with a baby Angela. And unfortunately, a lot's such a strong word, but the few trans persons depicted here are either very abusive, very hostile, very aggressive, are archetypal villains that are also trans. Unfortunately, I don't like that. That is probably one of my heaviest critiques in general of the show as it is that this is not a good look, especially when it came out. I don't know if this is just the choice that Watanabe said of, well, I did a weird thing on Venus. What's the human altering thing here? And just didn't think about it, who he made those characters, or if it was a truly conscious and intentional choice. But either way, it's not good.
It's not great.
Yeah, it's
bad look.
It's a very bad look. So that's why I say content warning. And like I said, this is not just in the second half, because throughout the first half, we get Angela's mother is not a good person. And we get that hard and heavy. But then we meet others along the way. And I would even say there's negative depictions about LGBTQ persons, specifically a lesbian girl, because she's the one that does the harm against Tuesday and during the competition and assaults her. So it's not good in those areas, I will wholeheartedly admit. And if that's offensive enough to break one's engagement, I don't blame anyone. I get it. And you're right for that if it does. If it's not enough, fine. But just be aware these are there. So, but that said, that's kind of why I wanted to show episode 18, because essentially we have had nothing but a more or less happy-go-lucky show. And this show gets deep. It goes deep hard. I'm sorry, Nick. I can't do anything simple. Everything I like seems to have, and then we go down the rabbit hole.
That's fine. I am similarly afflicted.
Okay, good. So now, with that all said, hey, Bob, tell us about episode 18.
Oh.
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. Hold this bomb for me.
Oh, we'll get to that. We do start off with Angela working with Tao and Etrigan. They're together now, as far as working as co-workers. And they're arguing over music, and Angela's like, whatever. Angela's mom rushes in because apparently Angela's been dating a guy named Aaron.
Aaron?
Aaron was her manager in that first episode.
Oh.
That got fired.
Yeah, Aaron also had some kind of manipulative plans to use Angela.
Of course.
Angela, at this point, is being stalked by someone calling themselves the Black Knight. And the Black Knight hacked a Tesla. It's not branded Tesla, but let's be honest, it's a self-driving electric car. It's a Tesla. And in true Tesla fashion, it did a run over of Aaron.
He doesn't want anything to do with her because they visit him in the hospital, and he's like, nope.
Yeah. Karma's a bitch for him.
Uh-huh.
We flip over to on Tuesday, and they're actually recording music. It's taking them a while because their studio, thank you, stinks to be perfect. And I think that's track 3 that they're working on.
Mm-hmm.
97 tries to get it.
This is Toby. Toby is an older hat than Gus. in the record business, the music business.
He really did know the Backstreet Boys.
I mean, possibly. He, how do I want to put this? He is very critical, but he's also not essentially produced any kind of bad work. It's just because of how difficult he's been to work with that he's kind of fallen out of favor.
Girls didn't seem upset when he said, hey, we got it this time. Instead of being upset, they're like, oh, awesome.
They were just relieved that they don't have to take it a 33rd time.
Yeah. The previous episode, just to give you some context, they wouldn't even get more than a couple chords into the song, and he'd say, shit. Like, he knew, he's like, I know what's going to come. And you think he's just being a dick. But as he kind of goes on, it's like, no, maybe he actually gets it. And he's really just trying to help them. Like, they get to one, he's like, that one. Ooh. After they only play a couple chords, that one. And it's like, and that's why it's like, he gets it. He knows his stuff. He's an old hat for a reason. It's just he's fallen out of favor because he's a dick. But he gets it done. So when you get all these tries to put into context, it's because he is pushing for perfection, kind of like Tao is, but doing it to get the heart and soul, not just to say, let's see what we can mass produce today.
Yeah, it's very much another point where the Angela storyline is acting as a very direct foil to C&T's storyline. Because while Tao and Aragorn are complaining about, their sense of perfection in the music, they're complaining about who touches dials on the AI, where it is the same thing. It is about sort of like striving for the best possible product, but it is the old school way. It is about repetition and practice and getting there. Yeah.
Yeah. You gotta do it to get it done. And as much as like he is kind of insufferable about it to them and arguably to probably most audience members, I kind of respect it because he is that taskmaster. Just a gross analogy. He's definitely Pai Mei from Kill Bill. It's like, you're gonna get it right. And perfect at it.
Listen, he may be a jerk, but he's not wrong. The worst kind of jerk.
Correct.
Gus comes in and he has good news. They get an invitation to the Hofner, or from Hofner, I'm sorry.
Hefner.
Yeah.
The English is pronounced Hefner, but yeah, it's Hefner, or however Joe said it, because I'm going to say it wrong.
Hefner.
But he's the main guy of the Cydonia festival. And I am going to assume these are important things.
We did the Cydonia festival earlier in an episode you haven't seen. Don't worry about it.
But all I know is Mars really digs music.
I mean, every summer, every time the spring hits in Michigan and the grass is green, Bob, you and I both know Lansing, Kalamazoo, Grand Rapids, and all over else, I'm sure, busted out music festivals the second, the ground is harder.
Yeah.
Mars is like Planet Woodstock.
They meet up with Hefner, and he does give them the offer to join the stage at Cydonia.
Two things. For context, Hefner was a part of a band once upon a time called Lazy Sandwich.
Oh.
That's how the Gus know him. And second thing, it's not just that he makes an offer. Bless Gus. I love Gus. Now you don't just take the first offer. You got to make them work for it. And so they all play like hard to get. And he's like, fine, I'll just get someone else. Wait, no, we want it. It's like so much for hard to get.
Get a chance to see presidential candidate Valerie, kind of speaking to the fact that they want no more immigrants to Earth.
From Earth.
The refugees are no longer welcome here according to her policy that she is directing toward. Interesting.
Yeah, because of the gate collapse mentioned in Bebop, Earth kind of a wasteland now, or at the very least under a lot of seismic upheaval. Mars is now what Earth is in most science fiction. the jewel of the Sol system.
So it's a point.
Foreigners want to take their jobs.
Maybe they put a big fence around Mars. Anyway.
And they'll make Earth pay for it.
So Carole and Tuesday are back at their apartment, and Tuesday's like, I think I'm going to meet again with Kyle. And we haven't met Kyle, but they do explain it enough where he's a reporter. Carole's like, he's probably just digging around wanting information. It's absolutely nothing to do with any inferred feelings. But Tuesday's like, I can do, or Carole just warns her. Carole doesn't tell her that she can't do stuff. Once again, showing that Carole is quite possibly the most kindest person ever.
Their relationship is perfect. I will hear no arguments.
Tuesday goes out and meets Kyle, and Kyle honestly seems like in this meeting, seems like a genuinely a decent person. He allows Tuesday to ask him questions about how he wanted to be a reporter. And Kyle asks her, a little bit about her mom, but it's not anything Tuesday isn't willing to share. Kyle's like, your mom's been hanging out with this weird dude who does anything to win.
Jerry. His name is Jerry.
And he's like, this show doesn't hide things. Everything's very obvious. If a person is not a good person, they are very clearly just not a good person.
His name is Jerry Juke.
Uh-huh. Anime villain Jerry. And his off-screen friend and character, Ben.
While they're finishing up their talk, both seem happy. That's one to boom! It's an explosion in the distance.
Where was it, Bob? Where was the explosion? What boomed?
You find out later, but it's at their weather factory. Or whatever plant.
Yeah, they call it the weather plant. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the literally actual climate control.
I would say this continues from me being on the side of Kyle because he really does help Tuesday through a panic attack.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, he, I get where Tuesday's coming from. Or not Tuesday, sorry, Carole. He's never done anything to this point to show he's anything other than who he is. He's an investigative reporter. So, yeah, I can get how people get a kind of a bad read on him.
His vibes are definitely off.
He's there to calm her down, and I say it that way. I say it that way because of a point later. But he's very friendly, and he, is like, "All right, let's leave now." They meet up with Carole, and Kyle's like, "Okay, everything good. I'm gonna go."
That's when he makes sure she's taken care of before he leaves.
He's genuinely a nice person.
Yeah.
From what I see, there's not anything negative in his attention or intentions.
Can we circle back to their discussion though before the boom?
Sure.
Specifically, and this is going to go again to something like my notes specifically go hard caps lock at a certain point because we're talking about Jerry. And they're discussing what he does, and essentially, they say like your mom's pole positions all changed dramatically once she met Jerry.
Once he met Jerry,
and because Jerry, like someone else we know, really likes to use AI, and I hate that this is how AI is going to be used, if not already used, in politics.
Oh, it's already used. They always use
sure it is
and numbers and computers to make decisions.
It's one of those, like, I haven't had any confirmation to my knowledge that I can recall, so I'm sure it's there, but I'm not going to just say it and have someone say, well, no, when I can't prove them right or wrong. But yeah, it's like, God, I hate this. I hate it. But like, okay, so we found the true villain, Jerry.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to get that way.
We cut to the weather plant, and it confirms that it's a weather plant, which I actually love, because in my sci-fi head, it's like, well, how can they be on Mars? Doesn't make sense. There's no way that they could be warm enough. How do
Yeah,
they
it's
have an
they
atmosphere?
terraformed it, and they have a giant space heater.
Yeah, it's giant climate control space heater. Went go boom. Well, now we need to call the giant.
And now the
space heater
planet's going to
control
be
repair.
cold, which I believe scientifically possible to live on Mars. Theorem. As far as the heat's concerned, it gets super duper cold.
Yeah, it's getting colder than it should be for the season as designed, but it's not completely what I would call offline. It's just working at a much lower capacity, essentially.
Yeah.
And wouldn't you know it, someone finds out that the explosion was caused by anti-Mars forces. And
terrorists. They specifically use the T word.
Also,
of course,
we hear that from What's-Her-Face, who comes on TV and says that, like, oh, clearly it was such and such, and that is why you need to vote me.
Are coming in and blowing things up.
It's
she's not very good at this subterfuge.
Well,
shit.
To be fair, this is all information provided to her by Jerry.
Yeah.
So she's going off Jerry's information. I will never not stop saying.
But she believes him, which is
she trusts him. She
or
doesn't
at
have
least
any
goes
reason
along with him.
If only that didn't have any Western context.
Yeah. Does anyone? Do the words "false flag" mean anything to anyone? Because I'm not going to lie.
Sounds like a.
That's what this feels like.
Sounds like a rule in Calvin Ball. I don't know.
I know. I will also circle back real quick. We did skip over something that's important to a thing Bob was kind of referencing. Will be later. Before Go Boom, it has been established in a previous episode and is kind of touched on again here. Kyle likes to use hard copy paper notebooks.
Oh, yeah.
And he reaches the end of his, and they talk about how you can't find these on Amazon. They don't say Amazon, but let's be honest, we know it survived. You can't find them online anymore. They're all sold out. And that's kind of a point for later. We're starting to get to why it's relevant.
That's because Tuesday is walking around and she happens to look in a store. And I have no idea what it is, and I don't think by the end of the episode they say what it is, but the assumption is a notebook for myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a moleskin or something.
Yeah. We also did we skip Angie and her mom?
We did.
Yes.
But the stalker's still stalking.
Yeah, the cops searched her place for bugs, wiretaps, the whole 9 yards, and found nothing. But
she's
allow me to add context why that's important. This guy doesn't just message her; he responds to her in real time when she's not actually talking to him, but
yeah, we saw a little bit of that.
Yeah, we get that. I just want to clear that's not the first instance, but that is probably the most on the point of topic instance we see it.
Flipping back to Tuesday, she's like, I'm going to go meet Kyle again. At their same spot. She walks up there. Kyle is leaning in to kiss another woman.
Ooh la la.
And Tuesday's all frustrated. And here's the thing, is that at no point, from what I saw in this episode, did he say we're a couple.
Yeah.
That seemed like interviewee, good friends.
Allow me to help. At no point has he ever led her on. I'm gonna squash that right there. There's no groomer accusation. There's no misleading accusation.
She's 17.
Right, she is 17. We also skipped how Gus and Roddy stopped by with food, as Roddy put it, only for the girls, to check on them to make sure they're okay.
A cup noodle.
Cup noodle.
So many cup noodle.
Yeah, they're such good boys. Such good boys. But that said, yeah, she's 17. She had a crush. I'll be honest, when I first watched this, I thought this might have been her father. Because when I first watched it, I forgot that they said, like, yeah, he did.
Yeah, their blonde hair really.
And the eyes.
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of forgot watching it.
I feel a little bad for Kyle. It's like I bet you he was gonna introduce her to his girlfriend or wife or whatever.
So here's what's not clear. Nothing is stated that this was going to be a planned meeting between the two of them.
I agree that she was just like, oh, I know where we hang out.
Yeah, so like, how did she know he was going to be there tonight? And again, minor critique out of all of it. It's a trope, it's a cliche, it happened. Honestly, it's handled a hell of a lot better than a lot of things do.
True.
So I'm willing to give it a pass. But yeah, it's Joe. You hit it on the head. She's 17, and she's
very
she was sheltered.
Sheltered and lived in her house.
And a nice, I'm assuming, attractive man to her, because I can't really get a read on his age. But I'm going to assume it's close enough where she's okay with it, but still probably not right. Probably not right. Is no probably.
It's a man who's being nice to her. That's enough for a 17-year-old.
And protected her from a very potentially traumatic experience of duck and cover.
And he never did anything, like you said, to lead her on. He was just being protective.
There was
he would do that with an old lady or a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if Carole had been there in place, I'm sure he would have done the same thing. If Roddy had been there, it would have been the same thing.
Tuesday's all sad, runs off, and Carole, being quite literally the best character in any anime that I've seen so far, just out wandering around and sees her BFF.
I think she specifically went looking for her because it was getting late and she was like looking around like.
I'm sure you're probably right, but I kind of had Bob's read as like, oh, she's just going out for a walk in the cold, but
But she's like, here's my umbrella.
Her umbrella saber, thank you.
Fucking
I want that thing. That needs to exist somewhere.
Pretty sure they do exist.
I'm sure they have something. I just haven't seen it, but I want it.
It's so cool.
It is, right?
So, okay. Do you think that the reason that the facility that got bombed was the weather plant had anything to do with then being able to excuse why we immediately get a sad girl in snow scene when a moment ago it was the middle of summer?
Yo, I ain't gonna lie. 100% gotta be. I'm putting money on it. I don't, but I'm also gonna say I'm gonna double down on it because it works so well. I don't care if it's what that really happened because I love it. It's so beautiful. Like I watch it, so I'm like, I miss the snow. So yeah, it's so good. All the lighting and everything. Oh, perfect.
That's the end of episode 18.
Mm-hmm. And I want to back up your point, Bob. Yeah, at no point during the discussions did Carole really hammer down, you can't see him or tell her what to do. But also, to Tuesday's defense, at no point did she become overly defensive either.
They're once again continuing this. They're just really wholesome people.
They're such good people.
But it's not in a way that it slaps your face like they're fake. Somehow they're both wholesome and realistic.
Mm-hmm. So that being said, Bob,
yes.
What you think about the Caroles and the Tuesdays?
So this is, to my knowledge, and please correct me if I'm wrong, first show that we have seen that's not based in super future, which we assume future, which it is, because it's on Mars. But it also feels kind of like
kind of
grounded. It could have happened now.
Yeah, this is a believable outcome for a near future.
And there's no robots. There's no aliens.
There's limited AI, but autonomous units. But yeah,
there's fancy Furbies.
Yeah,
they're fancy Furbies.
Well, there's also in other episodes fancy security pillars.
Ooh la la.
So for me, this is probably the closest to grounded in reality that we've had so far.
I would also go as far as say I don't think this is. I think this might be the first anime we've had on this list that really at no point is an action series.
So I'm assuming there's more of this in the future. It's an assumption. I could be wrong.
There can be.
I'll start off with my areas of improvement. We'll say. I think the product placement, while necessary for the budget of the show, was verging a little too much. You could use like sounding names, and then when you use the actual products, it puts it in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get it. It's DK Pepper. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, Coca-Cola.
All the various whack-donald's
Nintendo.
versions. Yeah. Or not Starbucks.
Yeah,
that anime
Right.
does have.
It's that when you're using, the obvious stand-in, you're just like, okay, you're kind of referencing the archetype. You understand what it's standing in for. But when you put in the actual whatever, it kind of puts it
When
into
I see a Gibson guitar, I assume it was made by Gibson.
Mm-hmm.
When I see Instagram, I'm like, oh, does she also have a Facebook page?
Yeah. I was just gonna say, like, it's an uncanny valley of like, oh wait, that's like a real thing in this fiction show. Like, hold on, what's going on?
Mm-hmm. I will say, I guess, and this just occurred to me when you're saying that, I 100% get where you're coming from, because a lot, and I mean just about almost every anime does that if they're going to have the thing, but not the thing.
The almost thing. They do the almost thing.
Yeah.
As soon as we started off with Cyndi Lauper, I was like, oh, Cyndi Lauper exists.
I feel like this is
the universe of Cowboy Bebop.
Mm-hmm. I feel like this is unavoidable because of the nature of the show being focused on music. You could throw fake names out there and be close, but it doesn't hit as hard or grounded, kind of to what you're talking about the future in actual music. Arguably, because I don't watch a lot of other music anime, if any. And to say that, that gives it that extra sense of reality, this extra suspension of disbelief. So and I'm not trying to invalidate or counter what you're saying. I'm just saying I feel like that's what it does, because that's, I think, what I've discovered or figured out the words for of why it works for me.
Understand. And then the only, or not only, but the other critique I have, and it's just a critique, and it's not bad per se. It just gets close, of the political intrigue just being so mirroring of 2019 America.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, oh man.
And arguably still now.
No, absolutely still now. Like we discussed at the beginning of the episode, they're pretty good at just 3 or 4 years later, this is what's going on.
Watanabe has his finger on the pulse of things.
And while good, sometimes it just too much reality, I guess.
I get it. Yeah, it's too close to home.
And while it's a fine line of, I appreciate it and the message there, because even if it's something I disagree with, I appreciate the effort put in to try to make your point across.
Mm-hmm.
I still feel like but before we started recording, I was talking a little bit about that this show reminded me of Ride Back, which, Joe, do you remember Ride Back?
Yes, I do.
Because that was a show that very much pitched itself up front as like, hey, this is a show about a former dancer who gets a bone disease and so instead becomes a upright walking motorcycle dancer racer thing. And I'm like, whoa, yeah, that's cool. And then what the show is actually about, not even by the time we get to the middle, but like, almost right away, it's just like, actually this is about like a political revolution that she is going to be caught up in and become like the icon of, and there's going to be no stand-up leg walking motorcycle races, and like what it can be saying in whatever it's like political statement, ideas that it wants to make art, it like that can be fine, but there's also something about like you kind of gotta at least hint that that's in there up front, otherwise it can feel like a false bill of sale or something.
Yeah, there I won't lie, there is kind of a little bit of false advertising in how this is marketed, but yeah, I completely agree with you.
These things being said, I think this show is good. I enjoyed it. I found Carole and Tuesday to be the most wholesome characters we have ever had the pleasure of having on this series so far. But not in a way where you're like, they're fake.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel
because we've had perfectly nice and angelic people on here, but you're like, they're almost like doing it as a ploy. And I felt no ploy with Carole and Tuesday.
Genuine, yeah. And I would probably agree with you. I'd have to go back and look to compare any other cinnamon rolls, but I'm sure you're right.
Because we do have middling-ish characters with Gus and Roddy who, while good, also had their vices. Had quote-unquote bad characters with anyone who was a mom.
Or named Jerry.
And characters with growth in Angela. Which the reason I say that she improved in 18 is she started having emotions outside of her own.
Mm-hmm. Outside of like harsh competition,
self-conceit,
and conceit. Yeah. So Bob, now's the big follow-up question. Do you think you'd keep watching this?
I was tempted to continue watching it today.
Ooh.
Because Bob, you have no idea how happy I am to say that. Hear you say that.
I feel involved in Carole and Tuesday. I want what's best for them. I'd rare for a show to be like making me invested in their growth.
Now
this is a wholesome show.
This is arguably a slice of life kind of show.
For the first bit, at least, it sounds like.
I wouldn't even, considering how close this hits to home on the second one, I would still kind of call it slice of life, just not what you would typically associate with it. I mean, think about it. But that being said, I did say this. I'm not going to go into details. But I will say, I know I talked to Nick about this because he had a question, and I'm not going to tell you what it was because it was between me and him, regarding how the show ends. And I will tell you what I told him without trying to give anything away. In a very similar type, different presentation, it has a kind of a like ending to Bebop. And anyone who knows like really how Bebop ended, yes, there's an argument to be said, but this is just definitive. There is something of a potential different take, and I'm really trying hard to avoid spoiling it. But in the sense of that, it is surely the end of the show, but things still go on. Life still continues. This is not just, and everything's done.
The story is over, but it is clear that the world will keep spinning afterwards.
I will even tell you this, because I don't feel like this is a spoiler. There are 2 lines that are visually presented at the end of Carole and Tuesday, the series. And it says, Carole and Tuesday will continue in your mind.
Oh.
Yeah. And when you see how this... I know, right? And the way that's said, I'm like, God, you could put that at the end of Bebop, minus the Carole and Tuesday part, and that kind of gets the same out of you.
I mean, you could put that at the end of anything and then just go to AO3.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. But I also like kind of the way it's like, and the story goes on, as it were, just not with us present. So I like that. But that being said, this is another one of those that, like, if people really saw my super secret list of top 10 anime, this is actually on there over shows like Bebop. Just because Bebop is really good. It is, depending on who you ask, like a gold standard, or at the very least, incredibly good. I like this because of the grounding and the sense of reality, and as Bob put it, the involvement. You become involved. You don't just become interested, but involved with these characters as their story goes. And that's something I don't feel like a lot of storytelling has. at least from my perspective, like I can be interested, but to kind of care, to like legitimately care, like, man, I hope this really ends well for them. I like that, and it evokes it for me. So that's why I said, like, this is on my super secret top 10. And so to hear Bob kind of say what he did about it, like, oh, good, it had the exact resonance I hoped it would with it. So I'm glad you liked this, Bob, to put it simply. But Nick or Joe, what did you think? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, that was all. Just agreeing. Thank you.
Nick or Joe, I'm curious about your thoughts.
I'm into it. I'm gonna watch the rest of it.
Sweet.
It's funny to me that is sort of what elevates it in your mind, because after what we've watched, I don't give a shit about these characters or these worlds. Like, so it's not that I dislike them. I think Carole and Tueday are absolutely they're a fantastic couple. Like, if there was like an actual sort of like slice of life episodic, it didn't twirl off into dealing with her mother becoming the most right-wing presidential candidate in Mars's history. Like that's the thing. Like, I like the parts where their relationship is wholesome and the rest of it is so grounded for the dark as well as the good that I'm just like, I don't want to take part in that right now. I will pass, thank you.
Fair.
I'm good out here. Like I said, when I say it reminded me of Ride Back, that is never a good thing to hear me say that, just because of the way that show spiraled off into being, you know, something other than it pitched and something other than I wanted on top of that. And like looking at the show for what it is, it just doesn't it's just not my taste. Nothing, you know, nothing bad to say about it. It's just like, yeah, it's just this show seems perfectly fine. I think this is a show that a lot of people could like. It's not going to be for everybody, and it's not for me. That's all.
Yeah, fair.
The worst. Okay, the one worst thing that I would say about it is, and I guess this is also the question, is the style of music that they play, that their little duet plays. It is a very specific genre of music, and like it is associated with a very specific genre of people from my high school days. Also in a way that I'm just like, oh yeah, I remember you people. I'm good.
Yeah, I was gonna say that about the music, that most of the titles of the episodes refer to are songs that I do not like.
Fair.
Because they are from that kind of person who likes the association.
Well, I mean, like, what was it? Episode 2 was a reference to Bruce Springsteen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I got nothing bad with Bruce Springsteen, but there is a thing that is just like, I listened to Cyndi Lauper, and then I decided to do what this woman who I've never met did. Never met, but became popular did. And now I'm going to go play this kind of music. Like, for as good as a pair they are as a relationship, for the music they want to make, it is that they want to make, it is like cringingly twee for me. It is just like, oh, you are. It's like every time she starts to play the guitar, I kind of expect her to play you know, Hey There Delilah, which is like, it's not actually what they do, but there's something about like the vibe of the band that they want to be that I'm just like, this is a fine line for the kind of person you are.
Same.
I guess I'm lucky because I am probably the least versed in music. I don't care about music in the way I would say most people do. I hear a song, I like it, sure. I don't necessarily there are very few musical artists I truly get invested in. I can see what you're talking about. I have a type of person, I'm sure that they might sync up with who you're talking about in the way of type of people that I could see listening to this. And Yeah, like I get it.
Like,
but honestly, I still found these kind of nice, and just the tone being kind of quiet and soothing, and for me that kind of kind of just hit home.
Yeah, it's fine. It's just like it's not stuff I'm gonna put on for myself, kind of thing.
There's nothing wrong with the music itself. It is more of a problem with our personal, mental connections. Like,
that's fine.
Also, Tuesday is so close to being the guitar girl at the party. Like, if she didn't have,
I can see that.
If she wasn't so moe, she'd be the guitar guy at the party. I can see it.
I can see it, but like I said, it's
it's really not a commentary about anything inherent to the show.
No, I completely understand. Like, yeah, I can see it. But yeah, I'm sorry I didn't jive with you. I really am, because I was thinking this might get him. This might get him.
No, it's another one of those. It's fine because it's not for me, but it didn't upset me either, so that's fine.
Yeah, and like I said, that's fine. But no, I'm glad, Bob and Joe, I'm glad to hear you'll look into it. Maybe, depending on how you like how it ends, maybe Q and Nick and see if that tickles his fancy at that point. If not, then we are where we are.
I was into it enough that I would definitely look up how the show ends. How about that?
That's fair. I mean, I would encourage it. I wasn't going to, but now that you say that, I would encourage it, just because, maybe that changes your opinion enough to maybe give it a shot. And if not, again, it's fine. We are where we are.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, that'll be my journey for later.
Yeah. If you do, I hope you tell me, because I'm curious. But yeah. So let's talk about that luggage horse.
That is the third ranking down. We got to go through the other ones first.
I'm eager to talk about luggage horse.
Because while we're talking about styles of music, let's talk about the openings.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
There were two of them.
There were.
And I'm glad you listened to them, because, and I had to make sure you would, because Netflix, amongst putting things in Netflix jail, also likes to tell openings and endings to F off. And this one, I feel personally, is kind of criminal to do that. But please, tell me your thoughts.
I actually really appreciate the way that they specifically structured this show. The reason why the whole 7-minute miracle monologue happens at the beginning of every show is because that is something that's going to be skipped. Where as far as Netflix, skipping points go, these are actually extremely well lined up, because they always skip directly to where the previous episode recap ends, the title card comes up, and new content begins. So every time it jumps, you're actually not missing anything new. You're missing the intro song, because it doesn't play on the first ep. It does play on the second ep, but it automatically starts skipping on the second ep. Also, I don't think I'm gonna miss that intro too much. I watched it every episode, but I was because it was by request. If it was by me, I'm there was something about the animation to the intro that the whatever animation pacing it was on, it was kind of giving me a headache.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I loved it. Something about it just jived with me. And forgive me, I should have been more clear. I just want to make sure you saw the first and second opens and endings.
Yeah.
Just because for the intro songs, but yeah, I couldn't remember which one they started on. I'm sure it wasn't 2 or 3, but I was it's too late by the time I realized I hadn't put it in there. No, I loved that. I something about it just struck a chord with me.
I feel so bad.
Go on.
Because this is going to be the second time where I have to agree with Chuck.
Oh, and here I was prepared to have my heart broken. I love when I win.
Looking through our list, I'm going to put this at number 4.
Number 4, so that's going to put it above Spy Family. Wow.
Wait, which one? Because there's 2 endings and 2 openings.
The endings we don't do, although they rocked as well. The opening number... opening number 2 is where I'd put it 4. Opening number 1,
okay,
I'm not gonna list.
Oh,
I can see it.
It's fine. It's workable. It doesn't make a top 10 for me.
That's fair, and I can see that, and that's fine. But that number 4 spot. Yo,
Yeah,
take that.
that is high
FMA.
praise.
And then the endings are fantastic too, and I like the art style there as well.
I really love the second ending. That one was more my kind of music.
I love them both, but yeah.
And as you were speaking, Nick, I was thinking, this oddly is music I enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
I can get where you're coming from because this is not any of the artists that they're referencing in the themes.
Yeah,
But that style of music I enjoy.
I was just thinking about this as we've been talking about it, but like for all of the like real world song titles and artists that they talk about, they don't use anything real. It is only spoken about, right? Like all the music that we hear in the show is crafted for this show, and a lot of times is the like, you know, when we're on the Got Talent show in the thing, it is you know, original compositions that are trying to be something new and diverse because hey, it's future and things will be different in the future.
Oh my god, I just realized we forgot something.
What?
Back in episode 3.
Yeah.
Gus was responsible for Bruno being able to have his concert on Mars.
Oh my goodness, I groaned so much with that.
I did too, and I loved how much it hurt.
What?
Bruno on
Mars.
Yeah.
Oh, that went all the way over my head. I thought it was Bruno as in
Sacha Baron Cohen.
No. Bruce Willis's singing alter ego.
Oh.
That was Bruno, wasn't it?
I don't know.
I'll go find a sample of that. I won't go on without me.
Sorry, I just for some reason that picked back up in my head. I'm like, the pun.
That whole section was great in general, actually. Just him like referring to musical stuff and all the kids being like, "Who's that? What?"
True to life too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh god, I really love this show. It's so well done.
Oh,
and I had no waifus. Android anime waifus.
Suitcase?
Tao's chair.
Suitcase is a horse. I will allow the suitcase to be a horse.
What about Ziggy?
What about
the most adorable of? That's our new.
I'm not gonna waifu no Ziggy.
Well, good, but I was gonna say I mentioned in one of our other chat.
I'm also putting that on the T-shirt list.
Yeah, that actually is really good. This is what I was saying. We might need a new tier list of just like animal mascots.
We're
because
running
Ziggy,
kind of late. I don't disagree.
We'll keep that in mind for next season.
Yes, next season.
Ziggy best bird bot.
I will put the suitcase at 5.
It made the horse
the Vespa.
Oh, below the Vespa.
I didn't expect it to like take top 1, but it is writable. Samsonite R2D2 deserves.
It has it does have the legs.
I argument against it, although still technically above 6 and 7, is it died.
It recharged though. She did recharge it.
She did recharge it, and it was very happy recharging on that goat cart. But then it disappeared. It was in one episode, and
then it got yoinked.
Died.
That guy's a horse thief.
You know what we do to rustlers around these parts? We sing a song at him.
Nope.
I don't think we did have a flying pussyfoot. I will put the goat cart at number 2.
Okay, so the goat train car is the second most flying pussyfoot.
Yes. What if the train was the new future flying pussyfoot?
I don't know how to respond to that.
Like, what was just renamed that? And then the two whose name I can't remember were also on board somewhere in the city.
Miria and Isaac?
Yes, living their best lives.
See, now that's what I want to see. That is the...
Yeah.
They'd still be alive then.
Talking about perfect couples don't exist. It's Carole and Tuesday, and then Miria and Isaac, And then,
Yes.
So you said something earlier about mostly action shows. We have had a Gretsuko on our list.
True. I forgot about Agretzko.
Yes, so did I.
Listen,
I
forgot
somehow
a few
this one
things.
felt a little more relatable.
Yes.
Oh my god, that is like the only non-action show before this one. This one had explosions in it, so is it really a non-action
Had
show?
a solitary explosion.
There was no powering up to do your spirit energy. No big special magic space gun. No red eye.
They were smart and ran away from the explosion.
Yeah, they
hid.
No one tore off the foot of their robot's the covering of the robot foot to do amazingly detailed gear mechanical work. No one had a Nadesco.
But like, Angela is gonna be a Vegeta later, right?
Arguably, she's Vegeta from the beginning.
She's always a Vegeta.
You can tell that she's gonna be part of it at some point. These stories
she's
are
just
gonna
gonna be she's absolutely. I mean, she's part of the first arc in the sense of she also on Mars has got talent.
She like
the perfect song.
The perfect song.
Her first perfect song. She gets another perfect song later.
Yes, this one will be even more perfect.
I mean, essentially,
think of what is the name of the group with Jack Black?
Tenacious D.
Tenacious
song
D.
ever heard.
Yes.
Oh my god, that's the only thing that was missing from this.
Oh my god, that's actually pretty great.
Oh, the show would have been even more perfect with it.
But speaking of our list, I believe that brings us to the final part of our show. A mere 3 hours and 8 minutes into recording.
That's fine. This is not the worst. This is only a tribute.
But true.
But yeah, let's decide what we're going to watch next week. Joe, would you like to read the honors?
We have 2 shows left in the Modern Average Anime Fair tier. So you have a choice between Just a Guy Who's a Hero for a Hobby and Can I Offer You a Nice Jelnana in This Tryin' World line.
I already know what he's going to pick.
Oh, you absolutely do, because that Jelnana is going to stay till the end.
Yep. You said that from day one of this tier, and it's bothered me, but also made me happy.
That makes me really happy, because that means next time we'll be watching One Punch Man.
Really? I've actually heard of this show.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a single episode. I figure it's about when Caillou grew up.
It is.
Yeah,
it's about when. Well, didn't Caillou have like cancer or something? No, never mind.
Not actually. That was the theory, because
he was a small bald boy, and somebody was like, "Oh, is he like a terminal cancer patient? Chemo, whatever." Yeah. Like, okay, no, all right, never mind, not
that. That's dark for a kids show.
That's why it wasn't actually the thing. It's just the only thing I remember about Caillou.
Throws fits and gets whatever he wants.
Each day he grows some more.
One Punch Man, or
no, Caillou.
Oh,
I mean, yes.
Isn't that the song?
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll be watching One Punch Man. I love that show. Joe, you love that show?
I love that show, and I love the story of this show.
Yes.
In the sense of the meta sense of like the story of how the show came to be.
Bob, you and I are going to go on a journey.
I was about to ask if you had experience, but
I had not.
I am so excited, y'all. Oh, I am so excited. We are going to treat you to.
Oh man, we gotta pick episodes.
Yes, I have some ideas. I have multiple ideas. I'm going to have to pare it down. I'm going to have to rewatch the entire series to pick my episodes.
Oh, of course.
This is the new thing. We rewatch a whole series to pick 3 or 4 episodes, and then Bob gets a super abridged version of a show.
It's great. It's the best.
We should just call this the Gauntlet.
Okay, well, that's gonna. Now that we have that to look forward to next time. Thank you everyone for joining us on Deep in the Weebs, and until next time, love and peace.
Stop believing.
Enjoy music. Deep in the Weebs is a show by Chuck, Nick, Joe, and Bob. Our theme music is Kawaii Friends by C. Cotty 3. You can find our show on YouTube, or subscribe to the audio-only version on iTunes or wherever podcasts are served.